Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tablelands Regional Council Ordinary Meeting for November. Could I remind everyone to turn their devices, either turn them off or turn them on to silent, please? Do we have any apologies? Could I ask everyone to be upstanding, please? I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we meet on today and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. Could we please observe a minute's silence as a mark of respect for the members of our community who have recently passed. We wish their family and friends peace and comfort during this challenging time. Thank you. Councillors, we'll go to item 6, declaration of any interest by councillors or senior council officers. Councillor Lang.
Regarding item 14.5, State Emergency Services Australia Day Awards, I want to declare I have a conflict of interest in my role as the local controller of Atherton Group. Since there is a possibility that I may receive an award, I will leave the room during the discussion and vote on that item.
Thanks. We might deal with that one now, Councillor Lang, if you like.
Yeah.
If you'd like to go out, we'll have a quick discussion. Councillors, this relates to the SES awards. The Australia Day Awards and the State Emergency Services Awards being a combined event. It's item 14.5. Councillor Lang is the local controller for the SES. As she's indicated, there's a possibility that she could receive an award given that she's with the SES. She could receive an award at this combined event. Councillors, what's your view?
Sorry, I misunderstood. I thought that she's declared that she does have a conflict and that she does. I didn't think we had to vote on this. Have I misunderstood?
I understood that she's declared that she's got a conflict,
Yeah.
but she wanted to stay in that.
That wasn't what she.
I think she changed her words.
Yeah.
Did she?
Yeah.
Councillor Koju?
Mr Mayor, shouldn't we be changing the standing orders to address this matter now?
We can address it now. This is where you deal with conflicts.
I think there's some confusion because I think she has declared that she has got a conflict and
she's not going to.
and she's not going to participate.
And she's going to leave.
Yeah.
So
That was what she said.
She's changed
Yeah.
Was that was?
So she had intended to stay. She changed it to say she'll leave during the
I didn't understand that, so
Yeah, so.
we might get, can someone bring councillor Lang Black? We'll get that clarified.
I don't think she wasn't asking what she just.
No, so during pre-agenda, she was going to
Yeah,
say she
exactly.
wanted to.
But I think today
She
she
just
just
said she
changed
changed
it.
it.
Yeah.
So she actually changed
Yeah.
the way that she'd like to do it.
And she said it. in a bit.
Councillor Lang, I just want to clarify, I was of the understanding that you were declaring that you were involved with SES, but that you wanted to stay.
No, no, no.
Oh, you didn't want to stay?
No, no, I said I would leave the room for discussions and the voting of the item,
Oh.
because I'm the potential recipient of an award.
Gotcha,
But best I'm not
gotcha,
there.
gotcha. Apologies, I thought you were doing that so we could have a discussion.
Oh, no,
Very good. All right, very good. So councillor Lang is declaring that for 14.5. Any other declarations, councillors? No?
Normally they answer.
All right, that brings us to item 7, confirmation of the minutes of the 30th of October. Do we have a mover that those minutes are a true and accurate record? Councillor Bilney moving and Councillor Spanos seconding. Those in favour? Yeah, councillor Kaji.
I'd like to speak to the minute.
Is there something about the accuracy or? Okay, councillor Kaji.
Thank you, Mayor. In my view, I consider the wording in the minutes from item 16, business without notice, where I raised a question for an update on the lease for the Action Performing Arts, is inaccurate in part where it is stated, quote, Councillor Kaji made reference to the conduct of staff, in brackets, CEO and General Counsel, out of brackets, in dealing with the APA and staff generally in dealings with other community associations, end quote. I'd now like to move a motion that the part as quoted be moved as this matter is now in dispute.
Can you bring us to that section, please, again, councillor Kaji?
It's in section 16 in the minutes.
Yeah, and what are you asking?
I'm moving a motion that that section as quoted be removed as the matter is in dispute, is now in dispute.
I could probably speak to that. So what was said is not in dispute. What is in dispute is that the allegations will be tested. So are you suggesting that you did not say that?
I move a motion that the part as quoted be removed as this matter is now, I've moved the motion.
What sort of a motion is that?
Motion that it be changed, I guess. What exactly do you want to happen with that part?
I'll read it again. I have moved the motion that the part that I have quoted be removed as the matter is in dispute.
Which, as in the matter that the minutes are incorrect?
The
Transcript.
paragraph that I've quoted is in, I want it removed from the minutes and I've moved the motion requesting that.
So my understanding, so I think it would be that you are disputing that you made reference to me and other staff in regard to APA.
Mr. Mayor, I don't
What
want
you're
to argue the circumstances around all this. All I'm asking is that that wording be removed. And I've moved the motion to that effect, as I'm entitled to do under the standing orders. And it's up to you to ask for a seconder.
Councillor Cardew, there's a transcript from the meeting. So, Councillor Cardew seeking a seconder to change the minutes. Do we have a seconder? Okay. Do you wish to talk, Councillor Cardew?
I've said as much as I want to say as the matter is in dispute. I don't want to.
Can we have a look at these, what's in dispute here? I don't
Well,
remember.
I've asked if the fact that he has said it is the matter in dispute, and that is not disputed because there is a transcript and a video.
As you all know, we all got an email late yesterday afternoon saying that the matter is being investigated. So I would consider that to be in dispute. And I've asked for a motion to have that removed. We have a seconder. And now I'll move a procedural motion to have the motion put.
As a suggestion, it may well be that as part of this minutes, we include a transcript of what was said. That's probably a way around it. Because what is said or not cannot be in dispute because it's said and recorded. But what is in dispute is the basis of the allegations that were raised.
Now I've moved the procedural motion to ask the motion.
Okay, Councillor Cardew is putting a procedural motion that the motion be put. Those in favour?
But I would like to see
It's defeated.
the transcript.
So if you can record that, Jackie, myself, Councillor Lamb, Councillor Hayden, Councillor Milne, against. So we have a mover and seconder for the adoption of the minutes. Those in favour? Carried. That's 4. And Councillor Spanos, Councillor Barty, and Councillor Cardew against.
Well, you can't have me seconding that, can you? Now?
Yeah.
No, you can't, can you?
Just opening it up for the vote.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, fair comment.
Business arising from the minutes. Do you have any business arising there, Jackie?
Were you going to raise that,
Yep,
Richmond?
I will bring that one up. So at the October meeting, Councillor Cardew raised a question about the Richmond Shire. They had some revenue raising initiatives that the council was involved in. So there were two revenue raising projects. One of them related to chickpeas. As trustee of the town common of sorts, the Richmond Shire Council was granted approval by the state to farm some 1,300 hectares of that common. A grant was received from the state to start up the cropping project. Council invested several $100,000 of its own for a contractor to grow and manage the crop. The crop itself was successful and generated several $100,000 in return. The Richmond Shire Council is deciding whether it will continue with the chickpeas or try another crop at this time. The second one was the Richmond Shire Council is a federal safety accredited council. This allows it to tender for federal road construction projects, which it does in the greater region of that part of Queensland. The cost of the federal accreditation is about $200,000. The initiative is a significant operation for the Richmond Shire Council, but has its challenges keeping skilled staff to support it. So they were the two projects, Councillor Cardew. And that was from the Mayor.
Thank you for following that up.
Are there any other matters arising from the previous minutes? Any matters from the floor?
From last meeting.
Questions on notice?
You just left us.
So we've got there one from Councillor Barty regarding existing conditions of approval in relation to stormwater. Have you seen that, Councillor Barty?
It was sent the
What's
same
that?
day,
Was it
wasn't
the
it, from Peter Boyd?
Oh, from Peter, yep, yep. That's-
Is that okay? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that one I have.
A second one from Councillor Barty, you happy with that? This one from Councillor Cardew, requesting an update regarding the risk projects. And there's a response there to Councillor Cardew.
Yep, I'm happy with the response, thank you
Yep.
for that one.
And this one, Councillor Cardew requested an update on the progress of the implementation of the pressure cleaning crew.
Which one?
Pressure cleaning.
Pressure cleaning,
You know, the pressure cleaning.
There was others before that.
That one was, or that was the 3.6. The previous one included
Three
three items.
3.6.5.
That was the answer to all of it.
yeah,
3.6.5, 3.6.6, and also you mentioned that the pressure plan wasn't included in the operational plan. So that was the response that was sent in response to that.
Okay, then in relation to 3.6.5, the email from the general manager indicated that there was no operational budget for it. That to happen, and there was no budget adopted for that investigation to take place in this financial year. So I'd just like to ask, can we put a time frame on this? Whether it be in next year, for next year's budget deliberations, or some sort of time frame so that it's clear we're not leaving this motion of council open-ended. Can we have a time frame?
is this for the sewering of Tolga?
This is for the feasibility study for the steering of Tolga and also for Herman and CBD.
Through the chair, it's totally up to council to provide a time frame to officers to conduct those investigations.
Council hasn't determined that it's going to do those things yet, Councillor Cardew. We haven't determined that. That's a question you've asked. The council has yet determined that we're going to do that, and then we've got to allocate money to it. So we haven't done that yet.
Mr Mayor, there's a resolution on council's books for the feasibility study to be undertaken for the Tolga Township and the CBD of Herman. It's a resolution on council's books.
Yeah. Well, we haven't allocated money to it
That's
yet.
exactly right. So what I'm asking, in the response from the general manager, it says that a time frame hasn't been provided. I'm asking that a time frame be provided so that we can at least get this underway. Otherwise, it sits in our operational plan as not started or not completed or paused, or whatever that term was in the operational plan. I'm asking just, can a timeframe be put on it that something happens?
It'd need to be part of the next year's budget consideration. It's not in this year's budget.
I'm happy for that timeframe. I understand that we don't have a budget allocation in this financial year, and yes, we need to discuss it, maybe put a budget allocation for the feasibility study in next year's budget. So would a timeframe be next year in budget deliberations for next year's budget?
So through the chair, I'm more than happy to provide council information in relation to the expected cost and time to undertake the works, so council can consider that as part of the next year's budget deliberations. Ultimately, it will be a council decision what it applies the budget to.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
For the rest of those questions that I had, an email has been provided, and I'm happy with the response.
Thanks very much. Any more questions relating to the minutes of the previous meeting? Okay, item 9, there's no deputations or delegations today. That brings me to item 10. Mayoral minute. Thanks, councillors. I've got 3 items and just a reminder at the end that the first item relates to transport and main roads. During our state local government conference in October, the Deputy Mayor and I met with Ms Sally Stannard, who is the Director General of TMR in Queensland. We discussed the urgency of a traffic intervention on Atherton's northern entrance. Both the Grove Street and Golf Links Road intersections were discussed. We reinforced our position for the Grove Street junction as a priority, given its solution will entail traffic lights and thereby provide some relief to the Golf Links intersection. We received correspondence from her office some weeks ago and have since followed up the matter with Daryl Jones, TMR's Far Northern District Director. Daryl has advised that TMR agreed that an intervention at the Grove Street junction would provide the advantage of a traffic pulsing effect for intersections north and south of Grove Street, and that TMR had elevated the priority for an investment at Grove Street. It is noted that TMR has a detailed design for a roundabout at Golf Links Road, which is also much needed, but still has not got funding from TMR. Finally, Daryl Jones advised that the intersection of the Kennedy Highway and the Atherton-Malanda Road had also been elevated by TMR, given the tragic accident there a few months ago. Of course, that accident at the intersection is the most recent of a number of serious accidents occurring there. Council will continue to lobby TMR at the highest level at every opportunity for our priority roads and intersections. The second one, councillors, I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the work of all councillors in dealing with concession considerations for our not-for-profit sector, our clubs and sporting groups. I know all councillors do value the contribution that respective clubs and groups make to quality of life and community more broadly. The challenge for council and every local government is how to support so many groups in an equitable way, because every club or group is different. The balancing act weighs heavily on the minds of councillors because there is not enough ratepayer money to cover what every group would like. Difficult decisions have to be made because only a modest portion of council's funds are allocated to concessions for groups. And the other significant consideration is we have many ratepayers in our community who are, you know, they're pensioners, they're on fixed incomes, and, you know, they may be struggling to put their air conditioning on. So it does increase the burden on that group of ratepayers. Again, I do acknowledge the hard work of every councillor on this task and reaffirm that we all do our best to make the most responsible decisions for the entire community. The third item, councillors, citizenship on the Tableland. There has been a strong uptrend in our citizenship numbers over recent years. In calendar year 2025, we welcomed 60 new citizens to Australia and the Tablelands. This number has been building over a number of years, looks set to continue, and highlights just how attractive the Tablelands is as a place to live and work. The new citizens add enormous value to our community through their cultural diversity and their skills, creativity and lived experiences. Finally, councillors, just a reminder, it's that time of year that we need to be thinking about disaster preparedness. We've already had a few storms on the Tablelands, we've already had some hail, but the summer season is basically upon us now. So just keeping it on our radar when we're talking to community, to remind them that it's time to start thinking about disasters, thinking about cleaning up the yard, and those sorts of things that we need to do as this time of year approaches. Thanks, councillors. I move that the mayoral minute be adopted by council. Those in favour? Carried. That's 6-1. Councillor Cardew. What I'd like to propose now, councillors, is that we've got people in the gallery here waiting for some decisions. So I'll suggest that we move a procedural motion to set aside the standing orders so that we can bring items 15.1 to 15.4, bring those forward. So we'll bring those items forward, and once we finish item 15.4, we'll return back to our main agenda and resume at 11.1. So have we captured that? That we suspend the standing orders to approve the amendments to the order of business. Notice of motions, items 15.1 to 15.4. The first item of business after the mayoral minute. The meeting will then resume the standing orders once item 15.1 to 15.4 has concluded. Yeah, so we've got a procedural motion up there, councillors. Those in favour? Carried. That's 7. Okay, that brings us to item 15.1. Councillor Cardew has a notice of motion to rescind of motion ordinary council meeting 25 September 2025. Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, I'll move that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Cardew moving, Councillor Spannell seconding. Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, as I've sent out to you all, I'm of the view that council should be supporting our not-for-profit sporting clubs and community organisations, especially those who have very limited ability to generate revenue to provide their services to our community. Charging full rates and charges to these organisations who are already struggling to survive will ultimately force them to close, which will have a devastating impact on our community. And is certainly not, in my view, in line with Council's corporate vision for community wellbeing in Council's adopted corporate plan.
I don't need to speak to it.
Yeah, councillors? Councillor Bilney?
Yeah, through the chair. Look, I want to begin by acknowledging the very important contributions that all our not-for-profit sporting and community organisations make across the Tablelands. They do their roles in such things as youth development, local events, community wellbeing is well recognised. Council supports many of these groups, and with that comes a responsibility to be consistent, fair and equitable. We must ensure that any concessions or assistance do not favour one organisation over another. To do that properly, we need a clear understanding of the current tenure arrangements and the financial support being provided to each and every group through the concessions. This further requires investigation and may involve reviewing the policies that guide how concessions are applied, along with understanding any budget implications. For these reasons, I cannot support the proposed rescind motion, which benefits only two organisations. Instead, we need to look at the full picture to ensure every not-for-profit group is treated fairly and consistently. I remain committed to an equitable approach that supports all organisations across the region.
Thank you, Councillor Bilney. Councillors, Councillor Lang?
At the last meeting, I was not in favour of the request from these clubs. I have received abuse and been name called since then. I believe I am a community-minded individual with honest intentions for the entire Tablelands region who has taken on a role that many hesitate to nominate for. I serve as a volunteer for the SES and Rural Fire. I volunteered for the Atherton Show Society for over a decade, and for several years I volunteered as a sports trainer and first aider for the Atherton and Eacham Junior Rugby League clubs. These are just a few groups that I personally support. What many fail to understand is that every discount and rate relief we approve comes at a cost to the rest of the community. I genuinely appreciate the value of the not-for-profits, inclusion and youth development groups bring to our town. However, it is essential to consider the impact our decisions as a council have on the entire region and to explore better ways to support these groups and manage community funds. I ask my fellow councillors this: how do we explain to ratepayers who are also financially stretched just meeting day-to-day living costs that we need to increase rates to offset these discounts? How will we tell another part of the community we can no longer deliver services or promised infrastructure because we have determined that sporting clubs and not-for-profits need community funds more? What makes these clubs more deserving? If we approve these requests today, we will likely be compelled to approve every request that comes before us. I know there are many groups waiting on the outcome of today's meeting, application for support ready to go. Yes, I agree we need to support these community groups, but we need to continue working on the review of our current policies and create a framework that is more equitable for the entire region.
Thanks, Councillor Lang. Councillors? Councillor Hyde?
So, as a president and the chair of several organisations and clubs, I think there could be a better way, and I must admit I'm a president of a club that actually owns their facilities, but I think there could be a better way to do a rate relief right across the whole entire board, and I won't be changing my vote.
Councillors? Yeah, councillors, look, this is a really difficult issue, and it's, as Councillor Bilney and Councillor Hayden and Councillor Lang have said, it's important we have a review that's inclusive, that's across the board, because every club, every group has got a different set of circumstances and dynamics and capacity, and we've got to do this properly. As Councillor Lang made the point, there are lots of people that are really struggling just to be able to, turn on their air conditioner, or so we've got to be really strident in how we look at how we give concessions. and I certainly can't support this motion. I appreciate the work all the clubs do. We've got a lot more clubs than the clubs that are represented here in the room. There are literally dozens and dozens of clubs, and they're all seeking something from council. Believe me, we do everything we can to share the limited resources that we've got, but we can't keep everyone to the level that they'd like to be. But we've got to have a comprehensive review of how we make these decisions. So I certainly won't be supporting the motion. This will be your right. Anyone else wish to talk before we go back to Councillor Cargew's right of reply? Councillor Barty.
I support rescinding this motion. I understand that we need to have a review. We've talked about this for a long time and it's still forthcoming. It doesn't, these two groups are paying above and beyond what a lot of the other groups are, and I don't think that's fair.
Anyone else wish to talk before Councillor Cardew?
I'd like to add to what Marie's just said. We have a review in place at the moment. Why does this need to happen now? You know, why can't we wait for the review to come to us, and then we take care of whether we're going to offer concessions or not? Why don't we wait for the review? Why do we have to do this now?
I can probably speak to that. So it's obviously not my motion. We've had discussions when we did the budget, and also when this came up before it came to council last time. I've explained what we need to do the review, and then we have said we would set a policy in place that you obviously have to agree with before the next budget. In part of those, I know that Neil was part of one of those discussions, so I didn't bring these motions now. So according to the current policies, all of the clubs, which are more than 150 different not-for-profits, have been treated fairly evenly according to the policies that you have in place. In terms of whether these clubs have paid more or less, that's probably a matter we could look into with finance, and then compared to the more than 150 other not-for-profits.
Just coming back, because individually each club's different.
They're very, very different.
I look at the APA, I look at the footy club, I look at the sailing club. I think we really need to review this on a personal basis. Each club needs to be looked at individually. And I don't know that we're going to get much gain for it. What are we going to gain out of it?
I'm happy to speak to that. So we have clubs, and I'll use junior football, they're not able to run a bar. We've got other sporting clubs that can run a bar. You've got some clubs that can charge a gatekeeping fee. We've got other organisations, whether it's social housing or domestic violence, etc., who can't charge an appearance fee or anything for any attendance at all. So part of looking at the review is not just the leases and licences. It's looking at the ability for those associations to generate revenue, and then looking at the actual, because not all, even with sporting clubs, not all sporting clubs are the same. Even football, junior and senior, are very, very different. So different opportunities to raise revenue. Sailing is very different from football, junior football as well. They're not all the same, but you have to come up with an equitable policy that takes all that into consideration. So we do have clubs out there that are sitting back and saying, well, why them and not me if you do approve these today? And I think most of our clubs and associations that were due to pay rates have done. It's the minority that haven't. So they're certainly there saying, well, we're paying rates, and they're dealing with council in good faith, negotiating where they can, applying for concessions. But this is what was agreed by you as councillors in all those sessions leading up to the budget. So we didn't know this was happening. You know, we took councillors through this, but it was acknowledged at that time, and has been acknowledged since by all of you, that what this council currently does is not a fair and equitable approach, taking into account all of the things, and that we need to come up with a better approach when we look to set the budget next year. And these are sort of ad hoc decisions outside of it, because you've got some advocacy from clubs. How you determine it is a matter for you, but this is not, dealing with them one-on-one outside of what you'd already agreed as part of that budget consideration and the policies you as a council have already endorsed, is not the best way forward. So I think that part of the work we will do in this next financial period is to actually get a policy in place that's fair and equitable. What's missing at this table is those who actually subsidise, and they're your ratepayers. So I think any policy should go out for public consideration, because ultimately I know a few of you have been approached by ratepayers who are in tears because they just can't afford their rates. And they are generally, 60% of our population is in the bottom 40% of the socioeconomic bracket. So I think that when we do come up with a draft policy, you will obviously dictate that policy. I think it's really important to put it out for public consideration and consideration by all of the clubs.
Is this a question, Councillor
Well, I
Bartlett?
just want to note that club members are also ratepayers.
Oh, absolutely.
And volunteers.
Absolutely, but we've also got, but other ratepayers are also ratepayers.
But
Yeah.
I'm just...
No, that's right, that's right. But that's why, but we've got out of 13,500 ratepayers. I think a policy like this which impacts on all of them, they should all have an opportunity to have a say. That includes every member of our club, includes every volunteer.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to the final call goes to Councillor Cardew.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for that commentary, CEO. I don't entirely agree with what you said, or everything what you said. Some of it's truth. I just don't agree with some of it. Yes, all these people in this room are ratepayers. And yes, we have community not-for-profit organisations out there that need our assistance. But, we've got libraries, we've got swimming pools, we've got lots of other things out there that ratepayers contribute to. And that makes up the basis of paying rates, to enable council to provide these services. If we took the services that these community groups provide to our community, our sporting community, our sailing community, our APA communities, we take that away from them, what's going to happen to our community? What's going to happen to our younger generations in our community? It is a burden on our rates, but it's a burden that requires council to undertake. It's in our corporate structure, it's in our corporate plan that we provide these facilities and ensure our communities is well looked after. It's in our corporate plan that we all adopted. So, there is a cost, but everyone says there's a cost for everything, and we all got to put our hands in the pocket at times. Our cost would be a lot more if we didn't have the volunteer organisations that support these clubs. It would be a lot more to maintain the facilities, to provide the services that they provide. The cost burden on our ratepayers would increase twofold, in my view. So, while I support some of the conversation around the table, I don't support it all. The other thing is that in my fourth motion, it addresses the concerns that some of the councillors have raised about the policy. Yes, the policy needs to be upgraded, it needs to be reviewed, and it needs to be changed so that we don't put such a cost burden on these clubs. The Junior League, for example, have had a concession on their rates and charges, or their utility charges, whatever it is, for the last, I can't remember how long. And now all of a sudden, they're expected to pay $20,000. That's the general rates for a general household only around $3,500, $4,000. So, I just can't accept it. And the fact that, with regards to the Sailing Club, they made application for grant funding for their toilet block out there. They were given some assurance from the previous council that this policy would be looked at to take into consideration their making a grant application, because they knew, they flagged it at the time, that adding additional pedestals would increase their rates. And we give a commitment to do that, and from my understanding is, we haven't done that yet, and now we're asking them to pay the full amount in rates. So I fully stand by this motion. The motion in this motion is to rescind the previous decisions. There are two other motions to allow the concessions to be granted to these clubs. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillors, we've got a mover and seconder of the motion. Those in favour? That's defeated. So that's 3-4, and that's Councillor Lang, Councillor Hayden, Councillor Bilney, and myself. (15.2) Councillor Cardew, notice of motion, concession, Tinaroo Sailing Club, property number 2677778. Excuse me. Excuse me. You can't come up to the table.
Sorry, kids.
Councillor Cardew, 15.2.
Yeah, the second motion is,
Enjoy your youth prime when your kids have got nothing to do.
the second
You
motion
think it's
is,
bad now, wait till it gets worse.
the second motion is with respect to the Tinaroo Sailing Club. It's all up there, you can read it. And basically what this second motion is to provide a concession on the utility charges that have applied to the rate notice issued in August, and a concession for utility charges, $2,124 to be applied to the rate notice due to be issued in February 2026. Extend the due date for payment of rates issued in August 2025 to December 19, and write off any interest incurred for non-payment of the charges issued on August 2025 rate notice to 19th December 25.
Do we have a seconder of the motion? Councillor Barty seconding. Would you like to talk now, Councillor Cardew, or would you like to reserve your right for the end?
I'll talk now, and I'd also like to reserve my right.
Councillor Cardew, over to you.
Thank you. I don't know whether I can say much more than what I've said previously. It'll be up to fellow councillors to determine whether the concession is going to be granted to the sailing club or not. I've given you all my reasons, so it's up to you. Yeah, thank you.
Councillors, Councillor Barty.
So the Tinaroo Sailing Club represents more than 300 members and plays an important role promoting healthy outdoor recreation on the Tablelands. Their waterfront location is not a preference but a practical requirement for their core activity of sailing. And I feel that the lease arrangement places them under a rate burden that is disproportionately high for a volunteer-run, not-for-profit organisation. The group maintains the property at Tinaroo to an exceptionally high standard, presenting the Tablelands in the best possible light to visitors and to the local community. The group is not seeking to avoid its obligations, but is simply requesting a reasonable rating concession which recognises their community value, the nature of their operations and the financial pressures created by the current rating structure. I support Councillor Cardew's motion today, and I support a broader review of the concession policy.
Thank you. Councillors. Councillor Bilney.
Through the chair, my decision hasn't changed, but I do think when we look at the policy that there is a potential concession consideration for DDA compliant pedestals. I think introducing inclusivity into those facilities is something that we should support, but that needs to be done through a policy.
Thanks, Councillor Bilney. Councillors. Yeah. Look, and this one, I'll be holding my same position. I won't be supporting this one. Anyone else wish to talk before we go back to Councillor Cardew?
Yeah,
Councillor Spanos.
I will just mention again that I believe all of our non-for-profits are individually, we should be looking at them individually. This is what we should be doing. I don't think there's any gain from us doing what we're doing across the board. Each of these clubs need to be looked at individually. They all do individual things for the community, and I think that's more important than I get people walking down the street telling me that they can't afford their rates. I get it all the time. And it's really sad. I feel for them. I pay rates. everybody else pays rates here. So, sure, it's a burden on everybody. However, some of these institutions have been around for such a long time, and I appreciate the fact that we had the meeting with Mr. What's his name? Castles?
Neil Castles.
Neil, and he explained how we need to move ahead strategically and sustainably. I understand that. However, I don't think there's enough of a gain dealing with non-for-profits. I don't think they're going to make that much of a difference to our budget with the non-for-profits. I understand there's a review coming, and I'm really interested in seeing that. But I think we need to deal with each individual non-for-profit individually. We really do. I will be sticking to my vote from last month, guys. I'm not in support of.
Okay, I think all the councillors who want to speak have spoken now. Is that right? So we'll go back to Councillor Cardew.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know what more I can add, like I said, and the next motion is very similar to this one. So, yeah, I've said that we should be supporting our community groups. I don't know what else to say. Thank you.
So, councillors, we've got a mover and seconder of the motion that's on the screen. Those in favour? Yeah, that's defeated. So that's Councillor Lang, Councillor Hayden, Councillor Bilney, and myself against. Thank you, Jackie. Item 15.3, Councillor Cardew. Notice of motion, concession, Atherton Junior Rugby League Club, property number 40924.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I've moved this motion to provide a concession for utility charges of $5,310 to be applied to the rate notice issued in August 2025 and a concession of utility charges of $5,310 to be applied to the rate notice due to be issued in February 2026.
Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Councillor Spanos. Do you want to talk, Councillor Cardew? Councillor Spanos? Yeah. Councillors, anyone wish to talk? We've got a mover and second. Anyone wish to talk to this? Councillor Bilney?
Yeah, through the chair, my understanding is that officers have been in conversations with the rugby league club executive, and options were presented where financially they were going to be extremely well off by what was suggested. I'm just wondering, where we're at with that, or how that can be progressed further. Because I mean, obviously the financial considerations is substantial for the club. I acknowledge that, but yeah, the conversations, there was a something that could be done to limit that, from my understanding.
Look, I understand the conversations are still active, but I'm not sure if the General Manager can talk to that or not. Is it?
Just to say that that's correct. We did meet with the club and provide some options, and just they haven't confirmed what they'd like to do with those things. So.
Yeah, my understanding also is those conversations, they're not onerous conditions. It's just organising a relationship with another user of that facility, firming that up, and then basically no one pays anything. I mean, that's financially, it's a win-win for both clubs. I'm not sure why that's not being pursued.
Councillor Spanos?
Isn't this part of the review that we're having, though? Has this got anything
No,
to do with that?
these are separate negotiations.
These are separate discussions
Okay.
that have been happening.
Yeah, I mean, I was at that meeting.
That's right.
So I was there. I understand what Councillor Bilney is saying. I absolutely understand that. And I actually believe that it wasn't something that was said in jest. I think it was something that was it was a positive. I really appreciate that. And this is why I'm saying each individual non-for-profit group needs to be looked at individually so that we can come come up with the right outcome. And I actually thought this might have been a little bit to do with the review. I thought there might have been something in that. However,
No, so if I could through the chair, just to confirm, so the discussions that we had with the club and the opportunities, the options that were presented to the club, which did include an option that required them not to pay anything for the utilities. They already don't pay, under the current policy, they don't pay for the licence on the land, they don't pay rates. The utilities charges are the what's causing concern, and so the conversation presented some opportunities around that, and that all the things that we discussed in the meeting are available under the current directions we have from council. So it doesn't require any review.
okay.
Okay, councillors, anyone else wish to talk to this? I'll go back to Councillor Cardew for his right of reply.
Thank you, Mayor. From my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, Hilary, the club's been getting a concession for many years. I believe the rates are in the order of around approximately $6,000 a year previously. It's now jumped to $20,000 thereabouts. Is that right?
So I, through the chair, won't quote numbers because I'm not great at remembering exact numbers, but working on the concession that you've requested there. So if you are requesting a concession for $5,000 over 2 rates, then that would suggest the total is $10,000 for the year,
anyway,
not 20.
However, it's a significant increase. And I fear that this club won't survive. They use the facilities at best 4 or 5 times a year to have club games, matches there for, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours of the day, and an hour or so of a training day of an afternoon during the football season. The impact on our infrastructure is extremely minimal. It would be less than a normal household over a 1 year period of time. And yet here we are charging them, a not-for-profit community organisation, charging them substantial amounts in rates and charges. I just think it's totally wrong. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillors, we've got no talking from the gallery, thanks. We've got a mover and seconder for the motion that's on the screen. Those in favour? That's defeated. So that's Councillor Lamb, Councillor Hayden, Councillor Filney and myself, Jackie. That brings us to item 15.4, Councillor Cardew, notice of motion, concession policy and 2026-27 discounted charges. Councillor Cardew.
Thank you, Mayor. This motion is to include in the rates and charges concession policy due for adoption in June 2026 a category that defines not-for-profit sporting clubs with limited commerciality and create a discounted pedestal charge in the 2026-27 rates and charges for not-for-profit sporting organisations and clubs with limited commerciality.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Barty seconding. Councillor Cardew.
This is trying, as we've talked about previously, we need to change the policy in my view. We need to change the policy to support our not-for-profit community organisations. And it does need to be fair and equitable across the board. And by including these things, or at least putting them on the agenda for discussion, when we talk about the policy or adopting a new policy in 2026, it needs to be discussed and considered. We need to help these organisations. So, you know, it's been said here around the table today that, oh, we need to change the policy and we need to do this and we need to do that. Well, this is what this is saying. We do need to change it, in my view. And this will be just a small component of that policy if it does get up in 2026. So we give a commitment in the last term, you know, to the Sailing Club that we've changed policy. We haven't come through with that, in my view. So again, I'm hoping that before the next budget and before we adopt this rates and concessions policy again, that we do review it, make changes where necessary to support our not-for-profit organisations. Thank you.
Councillors. Councillor Lang?
I have an alternative motion to that one if this does not get up.
Okay, Councillor Lang has an alternative. Anyone else wish to talk? Councillor Bilney?
Yeah, through the chair. I'm just looking at Councillor Cardew's motion. It's very specific about not-for-profit sporting clubs. I think any review needs to be done with all not-for-profits in mind, not just singling out a section. So, yeah, I think that's a concern with the way.
I'll go to the CEO.
Are you happy if I respond to that? Thank you very much, and thank you, councillors, because you've all been involved in the not-for-profit discussion now. Since I came on board, I think it actually started in the March as we were working with Neil. One of your issues, and you'll find it with sporting, whether it's sporting clubs or theatre or social housing or domestic violence, it does go to what ability those clubs have to raise revenue. Even within our sporting clubs, you have some clubs like junior clubs that are not able to run bars, and you've got clubs for adults who are able to run bars or charge higher membership fees and those kinds of things. I think it's important to not make it specific to sporting clubs. It's part of, when I discuss with you the issue around coming up with a policy, it's not about what's fair, it's about what's equitable, because you need to consider the characteristics of each of the clubs, and that might include where their membership base is, you know, the fees that they can generate and aren't, whether they can legally run a bar, whether they can't, and those kinds of things. It is a very significant body of work, which is why it has been on the table for us to do in this next budget round, but I think here it is not merely relevant to sporting clubs, it's really about all of our not-for-profits.
Can I just clarify? It doesn't say only do this, it says include.
Oh, sorry, it says that defines not-for-profit sporting clubs with limited commerciality. So there you will have a list.
Only saying just do this one thing. It's like, you know, other things will be included. It's just asking to have this included. So
well, we can certainly do that for sporting clubs. And then you'll need to go through the list of sporting clubs. We will give you evidence of their level of commerciality, and then you will need to decide between those clubs as to what you think is commercial and what you think isn't. But I think it needs to be, it shouldn't just be that we define specifically for sporting clubs. I think it should apply. But we can certainly have a column that is just for sporting clubs.
But it's just asking for that to be included. It's not saying only do this. That's sort of...
No, but we...
That's not how I read it. Just...
Yeah. No, that's fine. And we can certainly include that, but we were already going to be looking at commerciality for all of the not-for-profits.
Councillors, is it possible to have Councillor Lang explain what her alternative is or not?
Yes, and then the other thing is these are two very different resolutions in one, so B is very different from A as well, so you should consider them separately as well. But no, you might like to, you can obviously discuss what that policy might look like, and we've discussed it behind the scenes as well and the amount of work that would need to go in.
So can we ask Councillor Lang to explain what her alternative is or not?
Oh, she could probably speak to what she'd like to put in a policy, but we generally don't put
Okay.
the alternative up until we vote
Councillor
on
Cardew.
the one before them.
We have a mover and a seconder for this motion. I'd like to move a procedural motion that the motion be put.
Yeah.
Councillor Cardew is moving a procedural motion that the motion be put. Those in favour? That's defeated. So,
Hang on, who didn't?
yeah, so that's
4-3 again.
4-3.
Okay, so alternative motion.
Can we go to that now, or?
Well, there's no other motion on the table.
Yeah.
So, alternative motion.
Yeah. So can we go to your motion, Councillor Lean?
Yeah, you want Jackie to put it on the screen while I read it out, or?
Oh, we can bring it up.
We'll just bring it up first. So would you like to just explain that one, Councillor Lean?
Do you want me just to read out the motion and the reasoning?
Just read it out, then we'll see if there's a seconder.
Yep. So I'm motioning that council resolve to review its current concession policy with a focus on not-for-profit organisations. My reasoning is not-for-profit organisations play a vital role in the community, and many are unable to make revenue, for example gate fees, revenue from bars by sporting clubs, or operate on a commercial basis such as charging for entry. Some examples include social housing associations and associations working with vulnerable people such as the homeless or domestic violence victims. For this reason, a fair and equitable policy needs to be established to ensure that all not-for-profit organisations receive equitable treatment considering the various circumstances, including a club's ability to raise revenue. Additionally, the community must be aware of these overall financial impacts that such concessions have on the region as a whole and on its individual ratepayer. Ultimately, it is the ratepayer that funds any obligations of the council towards any community group.
Do we have a seconder for Councillor Lang's alternative? Councillor Bill needs seconding. Anyone like to talk either for or against this one? Councillor Barley?
Clarification, haven't we said that we're doing this anyway and that this is already in progress? Do we need a resolution of council?
Well, it's here, so
It's here, that's...
so then at least you'll have a resolution saying this is exactly what we're doing, so that there is absolutely no uncertainty to the community that this is what you've been working towards.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Bill.
Yeah, through the chair. Would it be prudent to actually put a timeline on that?
I was just thinking, yeah, happy as a timeline.
So it really, council has been working towards having something in place before the budget is set for next financial year. So that will then start from January.
Isn't this a whole new motion then? That's a...
Oh, I think putting a timeline on the motion is not, it just
It'd
provides
be
it
an
to be more
amendment.
concise.
Amendment rather than a separate motion.
What would be reasonable?
You could put a date to have the policy put before council, which would need to certainly be before June 30, because you'd need to have the policy in place as you set the budget.
Workshopped or presented to council?
I think the policy, you need a policy that's been resolved by council by June 30, because you actually need it in place.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if there's no time period, even though it was happening anyway. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, through the chair. The first part of this investigative work is I've requested tenure arrangements of all community organisations, their tenure, whether it's a licence or a lease, what utilities they pay or rates they pay, electricity. Some users, we pay the electricity. So we'll get a spreadsheet that'll list all that information. Then we can start to pull apart and see any anomalies amongst groups. That's where consistency, equity and fairness will start to be developed. And that will help us then consider what that policy may look like.
And Chair, if I may add then, and then you would add to that the ability to of that particular group to raise revenue as well, which would draw in Councillor Kidd.
So Councillor Lang and Councillor Bilney, are you happy with the amendment? Yes?
Isn't there, excuse me, through the chair, isn't there already a review? Aren't we doing a review on this?
We're going to do it, but this actually formally says I can now set aside money.
I'm comfortable doing a review. However, I thought this was part of what we are doing.
It is, but now it will really, so that the community is satisfied that we are really doing this. But it also will say to me, I can really set aside some money and put some time into doing the review. And for our not-for-profits, it will also signal that we'll be coming back to them to get information about their organisation. That might extend to be membership list, number of members, having a look at their ability to generate revenue, because we will be looking at what charges, rates or fees that they do pay, and we'll also be looking at where council pays, for example, utility, or whether concessions apply.
So my question then is, why couldn't we continue our concessions till after the review?
But you have continued, you have a policy in place and concessions are being applied according to that policy. Yeah, no, so you have a policy in place. It's just that the policy does not go far enough in terms of equitability and fairness.
Comfortable with what's been put forward there, knowing that we've got a review in place, and this is what I've been saying this morning. Each and every one of those non-for-profit groups, whether it's sporting or whatever, they need to be looked at individually because they do individual things within our community.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I mean, I don't have a problem with this motion. It's just that why are we doing this to our community groups at the minute when we really aren't there yet?
Well, we have to start it now so that you've got the information and a policy in place when you set the budget.
So can't we give them a concession up until that time?
You've got a concessions policy. So where a group is entitled to get a concession, they've sought a concession, it's been applied. With other groups who've actually got them, and it's only very few that are sort of negotiating, and Hillary has been, so we've got a number of sort of negotiations in play at the moment. So it's not that you actually have a policy that you as a council endorsed, and that's what's been applied. But this is now to come up with a better policy, a better and fairer policy. Yeah. But it does send, I think if you resolve this today, we can go out to those not-for-profits and say, we're actually going to look at this, and it will mean that we'll be seeking some information from them. So it probably sends a message that we're serious about coming up with a policy that's equitable and fair, and that we intend to put it in place as we build the budget for next financial year. But the concessions, you already have policies in place. Yeah. This will just be a better policy.
Final call, councillors. Councillor Lang, would you like to write a reply? Final call.
Thank you, Mayor. What makes this different to the resolution we passed previously, where we were going to look at the policy prior to Starling Club making their application? What makes it any different? We never did it.
So if I can, just through the chair, so councillors did review the concession policy this year. There was extensive information provided to councillors about the cost of various concession options, and the policy that was adopted as part of the budget that has been applied was the result of that information session that all councillors had input to. So the concession policy is reviewed every year.
Final call, Councillor Lang. All good. Okay. We've got a mover and seconder of the motion that's up on the screen. Those in favour? Carried. That's 6. Councillor Cardew.
Do you want to break
Yeah.
Does that suit?
Yeah. Councillors, that brings us to an end of those items. We will return to our regular agenda, but I suggest we might take a morning tea break till we'll make sure we're back before 10:30.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lee.
Thank you.
I hope you laugh right again. I can't see the rest of you give many votes.
Yeah, we'll take a break and we'll reconvene by 10:30. Thank you. Okay, councillors, that brings us to 11.1, the Chief Executive Officer Report, November 2025. Over to you, CEO.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and through the Chair. I'm pleased to present the November, it actually says subject October 2025, but it's actually for November 2025 meeting. And it report serves as an opportunity for me to provide a monthly update to our community on some of our key initiatives. I recently had 3 weeks of annual leave, and I'd like to thank and acknowledge the efforts of our General Managers, Hilary and Mark, who stood in as acting Chief Executive Officers. Did you get office? No, officers. So thank you very much, Hilary and Mark. With respect to a new multi-purpose facility in Malanda, so broad consultation by way of a survey with the community of Malanda and surrounds has commenced regarding what residents and visitors would like to see in a new fit-for-purpose facility in the area. The survey, which is aimed at everyone who may use such a venue, seeks to understand how to meet the current needs and what future demands for the community will look like. Council has endorsed a capital plan that includes planning and construction of 3 new multi-purpose facilities in major and district activity centres in the region. The survey is open till 12th of January, so please get online at TRC and join in the conversation. The second Business and Tourism Forum was held last night, and it was hosted by Tourism Atherton Tablelands and held at the Billycut Brewing Company yesterday, or last evening, I should say. It was well attended, and it was good to see representation there from tourist businesses and also from chambers of commerce. We will be letting the community know once we set the dates for next year's business and tourism forums. We'll get that information out and make the community aware. The Draft Farm North Queensland Regional Plan has been announced and launched by the Department of State Development, Infrastructure and Planning. It's available for public consultation, which commenced on 12th of November. There is a link on Council's website, so for anyone that is interested, please go onto the website and have a look at that draft. Council will also provide updates and is involved in providing either its own submission or a submission as part of the FNQ ROC. The Honourable Anne Leahy introduced the Local Government Empowering Councils and Other Legislation Amendment Bill 2025 into the Legislative Assembly. The bill has been referred to the Local Government, Small Business and Community Service Committee, which is a parliamentary committee, for an inquiry, and this includes dates for stakeholder submissions, public briefings and public hearings. Information on the bill is not yet available. However, information will be provided on the parliamentary website, and feedback can be provided via the committee processes. This particular part of my report will be relevant to a motion later, as LGAQ has asked for a vote on a particular aspect. So projects updates, I've just included some of the project updates there, and if any member of the community would like more information, please go online to our TRC website and look up our council projects and for any further information. Happy to take any questions.
Questions, councillors? Councillor Barty?
It's a pretty general question, but when the CEO goes on leave, how is that communicated to everybody?
It's generally not, like all staff are aware, but it's not relevant to the broader community because we have an acting chief
Sorry,
executive.
not TRC, really.
All of our staff are aware.
Yeah, well, I didn't get an email. Like I know we get like the email notifications. Like when I emailed you, it comes up with the out of office thing. But is it possible just to get an email going? You know, I'm away from here to here. This person's acting while I'm,
for council.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, and certainly my leave is, has to be signed off by the mayor and the system, and then the legal delegation.
Oh, I'm not questioning the leave, I just, I wasn't sure who was in charge at different times, like I sort of walk past the office and it'd be that guy, you know, like I wasn't sure like exactly who was, yeah.
That guy or girl.
That was, yeah. I was looking at Mark, sorry Hillary, like, yeah, I went looking for you and it was him, so that was specifically for that, but, no, it was a rewarding conversation as it always is, Mark. But if it could just, if there could be just like a, yeah, I mean, that would be my preference, I don't know about.
Yeah, that's no trouble at all.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, councillors, any more questions for the CEO? Do we have a mover of the CEO's report and a seconder, please? Councillor Barty's moving, Councillor Spanos seconding. Those in favour? Carried.
Morning, just putting you
That's
on
7.
hold.
Okay, councillors, 11.2, approval to submit development application for 1, material change of use for short-term accommodation, office, food and drink outlet, shop and showroom, and 2, variation request to vary the effect of the Tablelands Regional Planning Scheme 2016 version 5, lots 1, 2 and 4, SP 346001, lot 518, SP 265028, lot 1, RP 725723, lot 1, RP 716775, and lot 2, NR 7968. So we're going to the CEO. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and through the chair, I'm pleased to present this report today, which is seeking approval of council and owners' consent to submit a development application, and that's for a material change of use for short-term accommodation, office, food and drink outlet, shop and showroom, and also a variation request to vary the effect of the Tablelands Regional Planning Scheme on those particular lots. The strategic intent of the variation is to foster and facilitate a more vibrant and prosperous town centre in Atherton, with the flow-on effects to benefit the entire local government area. The development application is made over 7 lots which are owned by council within the town centre of Atherton, as outlined in the reports, and they generally fall into 2 different locations: Pryor Creek Master Plan Area and Maple Street Precinct. It's not uncommon for councils to seek to develop their own land. However, generally because of variations and such things, it does create a material uplift in it may create a material uplift in the value of the land. Therefore, council engaged Place Design Group, who is the applicant on behalf of council, to prepare the development application, which, should it be resolved to be submitted, will be received by council. So we have Camille Kerwin from Place on the phone to answer any questions as the applicant on our behalf. And we also have Peter here as the assessment manager, who will receive the application should the resolution of council be today to submit it. Because of, as I said, a natural material conflict of interest that would arise, the actual assessment of the application by a planning expert would also be done externally, because we obviously can't judge our own application. That would not be appropriate. So for any questions, again, I have Camille on the phone who has prepared the application, and we have Peter who can talk about the assessment process and what factors might be considered. So I'm happy, or the 3 of us are happy to take any questions that you may have.
Councillor Barty.
Hi Camille.
Hello, good morning everybody.
Good morning.
So I think most of my questions have been addressed, but I'm just going to ask them here anyway. So with the plans on page 73, 74 and 75, those lots which are the Price Creek and the Maple Street areas, they have a 1 metre landscaping strip around the edge of it. They also have an indicative building zone and a nominated vehicle entry. Could you just talk about the implications of those and yeah, what that's about?
Yeah, sure. So basically, it's just to give an indication of where development could occur based on your current provisions in your planning scheme. So it's purely indicative. It doesn't indicate any by any means like that's the absolute location for everything, but it's basically where you can build within. The 1 metre landscaping strip comes from your planning scheme. It's just a baseline landscaping strip. So that's what we just included, just so you've got an idea of where development could go.
Camille, in relation particularly to the Prize Creeks blocks, that 1 metre takes up a significant amount of room. Further on in the document, it mentions building to the edge of the property boundary. What happens to the 1 metre landscaping strip in that situation?
I would say that it would override the building, the step back requirement of building to the boundary would override the landscaping strip.
Sorry, what was that?
It would
It
override.
would override, so building to the boundary would override the 1 metre landscaping strip. And my other questions were in relation to, on the Maple Street block, Lot 2 on NR 7968, there's vegetation along the Maple Street boundary that is Marby Forest. Is there any provision for this to be retained under the change that we're proposing?
No. That is not. But I would say, because you don't know the detailed design yet, then you could still make sure that if you wanted to retain that could still occur.
What could we do to retain that?
We can put a provision into the document if you like, into the variation. I know that performance outcome and acceptable outcome, that's easily done.
Yeah, if we can do that, if everybody's supportive of that. I certainly don't mean all of it, I just mean, that it be considered.
Camille, with respect to wording, can you just say how we would word that? So we've got to add a condition.
We'd add a performance outcome and an acceptable outcome into the actual variation instrument.
Yeah.
But we could say something like, retain.
Yeah.
To the greatest extent possible, the forest on that side. I'd have to think about it, but I can certainly do it.
It's Rod Marty here, Camille, and a question for Councillor Barty. You said that you weren't suggesting the
I
whole.
certainly don't mean all of it, but I just think it would be, if we can retain some of it, even for, in building design and just having that sort of as a shade element and capturing that Marby Forest.
We would need to define that, wouldn't we? Which that would need to be defined.
How much does it have to be defined, Camille? Like, can it be? I mean, a lot of this seems a bit vague.
Yeah, look, we could keep it high level and just retain to the greatest extent possible. Or we could give a size if you knew how much that you wanted to retain.
No, if we say greatest extent possible at this higher level, would that say greatest extent?
We could leave it without the greatest extent, we could just say retain, and then let's see what comes forward.
Okay.
And so, and 3, provide owner's consent to approve. 3, and insert condition.
I would say assert assessment benchmark.
Assert assessment benchmark.
Yeah.
And it's retain. How would you word the rest?
So would that go under the environment and landscaping section? Is that what that means?
For that lot?
Yeah.
Camille, we're just typing some words up that would capture it for our resolution. So insert an assessment benchmark to retain, do we want to say vegetation or do we want to say vegetation? Do you want us to include greatest extent possible or not?
No, let's go without it and just say retain,
And
then
then
we'll see what comes forward.
Yeah. And that lot number is
Lot 2 on NR 7968.
So So Camille, because you can't see our screen, so I'll just read what we have written down as part of the resolution, just to make sure that we've adequately captured it. So it is insert an assessment benchmark to retain vegetation in lot 2 on NR 7968.
Yeah. Through the chair, there may, all the existing benchmarks may already seek to address these items under PO16 environmental impacts, that are the specific benchmarks that relate to this property.
Doesn't have an acceptable outcome for it?
That's right. So performance outcome is the higher order assessment test through the course of the assessment.
Okay.
In PO16 states that development is designed to A, protect the natural features of the site and surrounds, and B, addresses site constraints including, and one of those is, significant vegetation. So that's within page 98 of the agenda.
And that would cover that?
That would cover the vegetation, so that's covering.
Okay, all right, well,
Okay, so,
vegetation.
sorry, Camille.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
All right, so would you be satisfied if we then remove that? So you're satisfied, and you're saying that as an assessment manager rather than the applicant too, so.
If that covers it.
I think if we were to insert something additional, it would potentially be already consistent with what we're seeking under the performance outcome.
Okay.
Yep, okay. And I just had another additional question about the building design category. It's sort of, I realise it's come from that Senate code, but there's no energy saving design elements or building to like local conditions or anything in there. Is that standard for this sort of proposal?
I think because we've just applied, what we've said is we want those assessment benchmarks to apply here.
Yeah.
As that pseudo, so I don't think we currently have them in our.
Yeah, if
we do have them.
If I may, through the chair, council is limited in terms of what it can include as assessment benchmarks in relation to energy efficiency measures, as already addressed under the National Construction Code. So you then have the duplication of assessment benchmarks and potentially conflicting benchmarks between a local government planning scheme and a higher order assessment under the National Construction Code, which is why local governments are only able to deal with amenity aesthetics around certain aspects that relate to shading or glazing for those reasons. So
the glazed curtain.
yeah, so council can have reference to having wider eaves as an example, which also has an impact on energy efficiency, but has it for amenity aesthetics values rather than for energy efficiency measures.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you. I think that was it for me. Yes.
Councillor Hayden, sorry.
Just ask a question. On the application, on the 11.2, we have shops after the food and drink outlet. Yeah, we don't have that. Is that because should it be there, or does it really matter not to have it there? If you read it now, you've got the primary approval of material change of use for short-term accommodation office, food and drink outlet. And
It just says showroom rather than retail and showroom.
But you've got shop.
Yeah, it should be shop and showroom in there.
So you don't, does it matter to have that in there?
Well, we actually want the resolution to capture what we
want.
So we've, sorry, Camille, when we've done the report, we've missed out a word,
It's only a minor thing.
which we've now corrected.
It shows up here.
Yeah.
It shows up here, ain't it?
It shows
It
up
didn't
here,
show
it
up,
doesn't show
but,
there.
yeah, I
And
appreciate
it's not
that.
showing up in the next one.
Can I also add, on the DA, it actually has Tablelands Regional Council as the applicant. It won't be replaced design, so they will, they're the applicant on behalf of that, and we will change that, depending on, obviously, if there's a resolution that council, wants to submit.
Councillors, more questions on this one? Councillor Kaji.
Yeah, thank you. Morning, Camille. It's Kev Kaji speaking. I note that for the lot 1 that you've taken out, the variation is to take away the car parking spaces. I don't think we should be doing that. There's not enough car parking down there now, let alone when it's developed. Taking away car parking spaces from a development, even if we're doing it, like we impose car parking spaces for all developers when they want to develop within the DRC footprint, and here we are, council wanting to develop, and we're not imposing car parking requirements. I think we need more car parking down there to accommodate this future use. I don't think taking car parking spaces away is the way to go, because all I can see is going to happen with regards to car parking in the future is that people are going to be parking in the IGA car park next door, and we're going to inevitably end up with complaints from IGA for people parking in their car parking spaces that are taking up room for their constituents, for their customers. So I'm not in favour of taking away the car parking spaces from Lot 1. I think we should be providing some car parking spaces. Given the access to that lot, you know, there's not a, it's on a bend. Yeah, so just getting to that there from a pedestrian point of view, it also is going to have its challenges. So I would suggest that we do need some car parking spaces, and yeah, I can't support not having car parking spaces when for those reasons I just explained, and also for the reason that we impose car parking spaces on other developers when they develop. I'm happy with the rest of it. I'm happy with the 5 stories, happy with the 4 stories up in Maple Street. It's just, I don't believe we should be taking away car parking spaces in an area that we already don't have enough. Thank you.
I can probably speak to that one more than you, Camille. So Camille was just acting on instruction, so that whether to have a car park there was a discussion from the steering committee. So then it's a matter for council to decide, as you consider the variation, if that is something that you want changed.
Yeah, and I might talk to that one, Councillor Spenos, Councillor Billney. But yeah, that lot 1 is a 400 metre lot, and it's a very small lot. It's the smallest lot in the parklands. However, it's a prime site because where it's situated, it's got the northern vista straight up, basically straight up the rail trail up you know, looking up the full length. So it's a prime site, and you know, if you were going to apply the car parking requirement to that lot, I think it really makes an impact on a potential investor. And you could only really apply one park because it's such a small lot. So the view of the committee was that it's a 400 metre square lot, but it is a prime lot. You know, that one park that you might provision it is not going to make any difference to the parking amenity down there. It's not like we're taking away 10 parks. It's a really small lot, and that was the decision of the steering committee.
So I guess it's going to be so currently this is the council officer's recommendation is to provide consent. I think it's whether councillors would like to see the car park added, and then I guess it's whether that would constitute an amendment or requires a alternative if it's material. What do you think, Ben? Material, as in, is it a material condition? What do you think? I'm not sure. Yeah, we'd have to, because it's on that, it's not like a minor change for that lot.
Councillor Cardew?
Also, I mean, if we can get it changed, we reimpose those conditions on other developers. So, for me, I'd like to see a car park if we can. The other thing is, what consideration has been given to service deliveries? Yeah, like, if we're going to have a food and drink outlet, there's going to be commercial vehicles wanting to deliver deliveries to that complex. It is a constrained site, as the mayor has alluded to. It's right on the access entry exit point to the IGA car park, which is very busy. Are these service delivery vehicles going to be pulled up over the footpath, half on the road, that sort of stuff? So what sort of consideration has it been given to that?
I could probably speak to that. So we have a really small lot in lot 1. To make it viable for anything other than probably a very small house, we're seeking the variation there so that it can be used, including that removal of the car park. if it is around making sure for that lot, there's, you know, a turning circle, except whether you're a bin or a truck. So this is really just to make that lot viable as something because of its size. So, and Camille has then, as our applicant, has then, you know, done the application in that way. So if that's been considered, but within the context of being that town centre, a lot of the businesses and lots don't sort of allow for that as well. So, I mean, it's open to councillors around the viability of that lot. And this is just provides the framework then. Oh, sorry, did Camille or Peter want to say something about that? No.
Well, if it hasn't been considered, then, you know, they keep saying that it's a viable lot. Is it a viable lot if they can't get service delivery vehicles in there? Is it going to cause a problem later on, service delivery vehicles? You know?
Are you asking about a loading zone? Sort of?
Yeah, something has to be, some
consideration
has to be.
But as the applicant, we don't consider that, so that will be considered by the assessment manager. So this is just seeking approval for this application. So as part of the process, the assessment manager, which will be an external planning consultant, will consider all of the factors. There'll be a public notification period, and all submissions that are received will also need to be considered. So the actual process of assessment, this isn't to do the actual assessment, which is what will happen next. So all of those things are considered as if it was an applicant from a different person, and then council then considers all those factors as the assessment manager. So this is place as us, acting for us as applicant, to then get this to the point where it is being assessed, including for all of those things. So all of the Planning Act assessment and all the relevant assessments will then apply from this point should council resolve to provide owner's consent.
I think, I hear what you're saying in that assessment, but this is, the purpose of this today is we're the applicant. We've got to put forward the application for what we want. I think we have a duty of care to ensure that what we put forward, because we are council, so we probably have a higher duty of care to put an application forward that somehow considers these issues. So, I mean, I'd like it through the, you know, even if we've got to vote on it, do we need to address it? Because I can't support it as it is. I can support the rest of it, but I can't support this. And if it's all bundled up into one, then I won't be supporting it at all. So if we need to separate it and get a decision on, you know, get the feeling from the rest of the councillors what we want before we put that application forward.
So Camille would like to speak to this, and then ultimately how you vote is a matter for you. But this is not the assessment of the application. This is owner's consent for the application to be submitted. This will come back to you after the assessment, and you will have an external party provide a recommendation to you whether it's approvable and consistent with the planning scheme, whether, you know, in demonstrating that all submissions have been taken into account. It may be that it comes back and it recommends that it's not approved or that significant changes need to be made. That's the next step. So we're not looking at, when you're currently not yet the assessment manager. So we're just looking at a consent to then submit it. But Camille does want to speak to this, so sorry. Sorry, Camille.
Yeah, thank you. What I would say is that the loading, this is a preliminary approval, so it's in principle support for the land use. The specific assessment, the detailed design comes as a development permit. So this is just setting up the framework. All other codes of the scheme still continue to apply in assessment purposes. So which includes loading in your car parking and access code. So that's still an assessment benchmark. Should it proceed to seeking a development permit on the site. So it will still be addressed. It's just not at this point in time because it's setting up the planning framework for those particular premises.
Questions, councillors?
Councillor Bowden? Just speak to why lot 3 down at Price Creek isn't included, just for anybody that might be listening.
Yeah, thank you very much, and probably Mark's best place to talk about lot 3. I'll probably hand over to you, so the car park, yeah.
Yes, sorry, I was temporarily distracted. What was the question?
Lot 3.
Yeah, it was excluded and from the 5-story.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Councillor Barney, and through the chair. Lot 3 at the moment is designed and hopefully going to be delivered as a car park initially, and as such, because there's no clear intent from council to actually develop that lot as anything else than a car park at this point in time, it was excluded from the preliminary change application process.
I just had a question, and I'll come to you, Councillor Cardew, next. Did lot 3 have any stormwater underneath it, Mark?
Lot 3 at the moment does include stormwater, basically taking stormwater from the existing TMI car park at Butts Railway Lane through the lot and then underneath Marby Way towards the creek. There is also a significant transformer, sorry, and quite a bit of electrical cabling as well. So that limits, potentially doesn't prevent, but it does limit the use or would require significant amendment of that underground infrastructure on that lot if it was to be developed on the ground level.
Yeah. Councillor Cardew.
Yeah,
Thanks, Mark.
Just having given that some thought, why can't we include it to have, to be able to have the height limit raised to 5 stories or what have you? Because, like I said earlier, car parking is an issue down there. What would be stopping us now or in the future of putting a multi-story car park on that lot to serve it, because, it's just a matter of including it with the rest of the lots to have that ability. Why would we not do that rather than limit it to just a single ground level car park? Why don't we include it in this variation request to allow for the possibility of a multi-story car park in the future?
I could probably speak to that. So when we do the new planning scheme, and Camille, you may also want to speak to that. So we do have some changes that will be happening with lot 3, including a change to the boundary, which, because of that encroachment issue. At this stage, there's no, council does not have any near-term future intent to try and sell that lot. It will be a car park lot. And then we will also deal with that additional boundary issue. When we redo the planning scheme, it's likely, if this is actually well accepted by lot owners in the town centre, it may well be that in 2 years' time or 1.5 years' time, that as part of the new planning scheme, they want those heights lifted in the town centre. So it's not an all one chance to change the height over lot 3. But I think for the various issues that make lot 3 different, it's certainly not one where we will be going out to market and looking to build. Certainly, I can absolutely say that, certainly in the next few years, there's not really a potential to sell and develop that particular lot. Yeah, because we'll settle all the other things about it first.
Just a question, if someone wanted lot 2 and then decided they wanted a bigger footprint, are we able to add lot 3 to it?
But there's nothing preventing us from selling lot 3. So the boundary on lot 3 will change. So it's not going to look like that in a couple of months or weeks. So we obviously have to submit an application to change the boundary to deal with that issue that we've been dealing with for a while now. I think at that point, if someone came forward for lot 2 and said we also want lot 3, the developers, investors that I have been dealing with, not a single one has said they've got an interest in lot 3. They all said we've got an interest in lot 2, but height makes it unfeasible. because you can't get enough rooms. But then for the issues that we have with lot 3, and the changes that will need to occur, including with the boundary, in coming months, so that will obviously be an application that comes back to council as well. I think it would, I haven't had anyone express an interest in lot 3, including those that have expressed an interest in lot 2. I think if it did happen, we'd probably deal with it at the time. But we would, obviously lot 3 will not be the size it is now, I guess.
Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks. Well, what Councillor Spanos just said, why wouldn't we include it? Because if that opportunity come up where the developer did want to, excuse me, if he did want part of or all of lot 3, then if we don't include it now, that, again, it's going to limit the capability. I don't know. It's just, it could enhance the sale of lot 2 because it's right next door. It's freehold. If they wanted it, even for their own car parking purposes, if they wanted to put a 2-storey car park or a 3-storey car park on there, they wouldn't be able to, but they'd have to come back through a material change of use again, or through another variation request. So why don't we just throw it in there? It's no skin off anybody's nose to do it.
Well, yeah, it's a matter for councillors. No one, I expect lot 2 to go quite quickly, so we'll do an EOI process early in the new year. None of those, including those who've made informal offers, and I've said it's now not the time you can wait, none of those have expressed an interest in lot 3, because I have actually explored that with them and said, do you think there is, but also we have a parkland, we have to provide car parking. And lot 3 is our car park. Some of lot 3 will be a smaller lot very soon in coming months, but that's a separate application process to resolve that issue. So at this stage, there's no interest in lot 3. Lot 3 will be a different size, but council has actually committed, because we also need to provide parking.
Do we know how many car parks will get in that spot there?
Well, the number of car parks will be reduced once the boundary change goes through, but it's currently in the plan at, how many car parks is it? Well, it's not that many.
Sorry, I don't know the number of car parks.
Maybe 12 or...
It's between 10 and 15.
Yeah, and that...
But it's still a sizable amount, 12 car parks is still good for the area down there.
But we will...
But I understand what Kev's saying as well,
Yeah.
as far as what is the issue with not including that in our change of height use there?
Well, there's absolutely no issue. So the number of car parks will be reduced when we do the boundary realignment to solve a different issue. That will happen in coming months, and we'll redesign the car park to take into account the land that we're ultimately left with. There's nothing stopping us putting it there, but in terms of interest, there is no interest in that. Okay. And it's likely that lot 2 will go quite quickly, and those who have been at the table have not expressed interest in lot 3. So for lot 2, it can go up to, I think how many metres is it already for lot 3? Sorry, Camille.
3 stories.
So it can already be built at up to 3 stories.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So it's already a 3 anyway, so.
Yeah. So it's a matter for council, but I think adding another lot might be an alternative motion. So if you want to defeat council officer's recommendation, bring an alternative motion that we add in that lot, but that lot will not be the same size in coming months.
Questions, councillors? Councillor Barley?
Just in relation to lot 2, just the number of community groups that use that for facility and the building and everything like that. I understand that you are speaking to them about what's coming, because they will obviously see this plan, and I just want to make sure that that's happening.
Absolutely, for a Maple Street precinct. So part of the conversations that we've had, these are informal conversations. So for council and the community, nothing is yet carved in stone. However, we do need to look at what's going to happen to all our buildings that fall into end of life in this coming 10 years, and we need to put plans in place. And that has been part of our budgeting for this 10 years for this council. Our current civic building, that for staff accommodation, is reaching end of life, and then we also have on this Naval Street precinct, the old school that will reach end of life quite quickly. We have a number of community groups that use that space. I think there are eight at the moment, and it's important for us if we're replacing buildings or having to decommission or demolish buildings into the future. So this is not short term, this is long term, that we make sure that whatever is being designed we can find homes for all of our community groups. So conversations will start. They have actually been asking some questions because of the state of the old school. It's likely that finding new homes will happen, will need to happen much more quickly than any new community or civic building, which would be post 2030. So it would be certainly in that 5-year plus horizon. So we will work with those groups, but I think their issue will be more urgent than what happens, where the council decides to enter into an arrangement, to have a community or civic building built because of the state and age of the school that they currently occupy. So I think their current needs are more pressing than, so there will certainly be interest in a new community and civic building, but because it's many years further off than the actual more pressing and urgent needs of those groups that are using the school because of the issues that we've had, and the issues that those groups have had and SES have had. Current school. Yeah, but we will definitely be having discussions.
And there's areas outside the school, like the Dog Obedience Club and the U3A and the tennis court, they're all sort of in that group as well. So are they being spoken to?
No, because it's all dependent on a resolution of council today. So if council resolves to put this application in, we will have those conversations. But a lot of these groups are already worried because of particularly the state of the school. But any decision of council moving forward about whether it's a new community building or civic building will be something about a building that may or may not be built not till say 2030, 2031, 2032. And for some of those groups, I think their current premises will not last that long, which is the school. But no, absolutely, and I know that Blake's been involved and others, because there's general concerns about what the groups, particularly those that are using the old school, are experiencing when they're trying to turn up and have their meetings. Yeah, sorry.
Just a slight correction. So lot 3, the design that is currently being considered, has got only 3 car parks fully included, and 2 car parks shared with lot 3 and the existing car park at the back. So that because of the layout of the car park, they sort of cross the boundary.
Yep.
So
is that the current one now?
That's
or is that the one after the lot size changes?
That's the one after. So that's the current version.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillors, any more questions?
Are we going to deal with these things individually that we've raised, or how are we going to deal with it?
Which things are you talking about, Councillor?
Matters that we've just raised, the car park stories, are we going to include it, lot 3 into the freehold sale, are we going to include it into the height limitation, are we going to address the car park on lot 1?
So, did you say, CEO, that lot 3 is?
It's 3 stories.
It's 3 stories as it is at the moment. So, I think that's probably adequate.
I think if anyone wants the material changes, then it would be that this gets defeated and then there's an alternative motion where that's added. I think Peter's explained the vegetation, so that's not on foot. The assessment car parks or what have you, or turnarounds for lot 1 will happen after this, and will also be open for public consultation. And then it's whether councils are satisfied lot 3 can already be to 3 stories, but it doesn't affect the feasibility of 2. No one has expressed an interest in 3. It is a car park and the boundary will change. It will become a smaller lot in coming months because of the other matter. So if you'd like an alternative motion, then you would have to vote this one down, or so you defeat this one and then bring in alternative motion.
But I think there's several issues that's been raised. We need to address each of those individually and get an outcome so that we can move forward, because.
So what are the other ones, councillor Tarji?
Well, there's the boundary setbacks for Bryce Creek precinct. I think it was 1 metre, is that right?
No, that's been dealt with. Yeah, that was
Bryce Creek.
Yeah, that's been dealt with.
To be included in it.
No, it's been, as in the, councillor Barty was provided with an answer by Camille that explains better the boundary.
Yeah, but are we taking that out of our variations?
Well, this is to provide the overarching framework. We're actually not we're not detailed design of, it really just is providing the assessment factors that will apply there.
I understand that, but if there's some sort of suggestion that there has to be a metre setback in our preliminary, in our variation, putting on my builder's hat, I would think that that would frighten some of the developers maybe, because in a commercial instance, it's very common practice to build to the boundary. So if there's limitations there, or suggestions of limitations, that could have an impact on what they will or won't do.
We're not imposing more limitations. The town centre zone is what it is. So that's already in the existing material. What we're doing in that area is lifting the height, removing the car park requirement for lot 1. And so, Camille, did you want to respond to this one again about the?
Just excuse me, I'm just going to go to the bathroom. Councillor Bill, you can take over.
In relation to setback requirements?
Yeah, so the build to boundary versus 1 metre setback.
So the landscape strip is an indicative minimum 1 metre landscape strip. That's based on what your scheme is, and that was only given as an indication based on what the scheme says. But when you go to the variation itself, you'll see that there's development is constructed up to the road frontage of the site under setbacks.
So it's not an impediment. It's not an additional impediment.
It's not an impediment.
Oh, do you want to take the? So it's not an additional impediment. It was just indicative in that we didn't spend a fortune getting an architect to draw it up. So the building to the boundary overrides the need to have a 1 metre vegetation strip. So it's the 1 metre is not an impediment. The build to the boundary will override that. Does that make? Yeah. Any other questions for Camille while we've got her on the line?
So we don't deal with these things individually, or?
Well, you'd have to. So there's a motion. So this is the officer's recommendation.
Yeah. So
it's whether you want to move the council officer's
so I think to bring this to a head, we'll see if we've got a mover and seconder of the officer's recommendation. Mover or a seconder? I'll move. Councillor Spanos moving. Seconder? Councillor Lang seconding.
Might wait for the mayor to back in.
Pass the baton back to the mayor. We've got a mover and a seconder of the officer's recommendation.
Okay. And so who's the mover?
Mover is Councillor Spanos.
Oh, yeah.
And the seconder is Councillor Lang.
Thank you. Councillor Spanos, to you, would you like to talk?
I think I'm covered with all of this and understand what Camille's actually explained to us, and from others within the room, of course. But I'm comfortable with what's been said. And it's preliminary as well. It's not something that's set in stone.
Well, we're not the assessment. We're actually not even assessing it, and you're not assessing it now.
No, it's just giving us a general idea. So I'm comfortable with it the way it is.
Councillor Lang?
I'm happy.
Yeah. Anyone like to talk for or against? Yeah, look, councillors, I think we shouldn't underestimate the amount of work that's gone in to getting this to this point. There's a lot of work that's gone in to get it to this point. Yeah, I'd fully support it, and it'll be if it proceeds ultimately, it'll be an amazing thing. Anyone else like to talk? Would you like to talk, Councillor Spanos, as the mover? No? Okay, we've got a mover and seconder. Those in favour? carried, that's 6-1.
So just for the benefit of the councillors, so this will now, the application will now be submitted. It will be submitted to us because we're essentially the regulatory body that assesses it. However, to ensure that there is independence, it will go out for an external assessment. That report, there will be a public notification period, so everyone, will be invited to make submissions. That planning consultant will take into account the submissions, provide a report back to council, because then ultimately you will be the decision maker as to whether to accept, approve the application or not. This is likely to probably come back around Easter, so you'll see it in a few months.
Thank you, thanks, Leo. Okay, that brings us to item 11.3, CEO appraisal policy for adoption.
I kept you on the second. Sorry, I thought there were more before you, Peter. Sorry.
Thanks, Yvette. I might get you to talk to this one when you're ready. Thank you.
Good morning, councillors. Through the chair, I'm pleased to present this report to the council. Officers have reviewed TRC's obligations under the Local Government Act regarding engagement in ongoing performance appraisal of the CEO. Section 12, subsection 4 of the Local Government Act provides that the Mayor has the responsibility for conducting a performance appraisal of the CEO, at least annually, in the way that's decided by the local government, including as the member of a committee. Section 194, subsection 4A of the Act further provides that the contract of employment of the CEO must provide for the CEO to meet performance standards set by the local government. This newly developed policy sets out TRC's approach to the CEO's annual performance appraisal, provides an overall framework for setting performance expectations, as well as monitoring an annual assessment of the CEO's performance against these expectations in accordance with the legislative requirements. I'm happy to take any questions.
Councillor Vardy.
Thanks, Yvette. This is my question from the other day. Is there any scope for feedback from council officers in this process?
I confirm that under the procedures document that will be developed, should council endorse this policy, there will be provision for feedback from direct reports and potentially further afield for the council's, the CEO's performance.
And that procedures document, that's one of those 4 documents mentioned on
It is one of the 4 documents referenced in the policy document itself.
Okay, great. And my other question was the email that I sent you about that section that it goes into confidential under. My question was just about like the wording of that particular A that says the appointment, discipline or dismissal of the chief executive officer. Is that the...
So those are the provisions under the Local Government Act where council can close a session of a public meeting in order to discuss specific matters. So that's in addition to any other legislative provisions. So under the Privacy Act, employee records, which would include performance appraisals, are considered confidential and should not be publicly disclosed.
I don't think it should be.
So that's separate.
But yes,
so that's
separate.
why the performance appraisal report of the CEO would be considered in a confidential session in a council meeting rather than in a public session.
And under that A title, because it just doesn't read like it covers an employment issue.
When we close, if we were to close and review the CEO's performance in a closed session, we would also potentially reference the provisions of the Privacy Act, which cover that.
All right, thank you.
Councillors, questions? Councillor Cardrew.
Yeah, thanks. I'm happy enough with the policy, but I don't support dot point 4 of the recommendation. I don't believe the mayor should have that authority to develop, amend the associated procedures, guidelines, and any other documents related to the adopted policy. I think that should come back to council for adoption. I don't believe it should be in the hands of one person. I think it should come back to council. So I'm happy to support the rest of it, but not dot point 4.
Just those things, Councillor Cardrew, those things will fit in under the policy. They're not adjustments to the policy. They have to comply with the policy, so they're sitting underneath the policy. So, the performance template for the CEO, that could be modified from year to year because, you move from you move from the Priors Creek Parklands to another major project. So your performance template, it's not necessarily identical every year. Things will change. So it's not changing the policy doesn't change. It's the documents that fit in underneath. Councillor Coe.
Yeah, thanks. I understand that they are documents that form under, that sit underneath the policy, but they do form part of the policy. So, and, you know, it's too open-ended for me. It says, and any other documents relevant. I mean, what's the other relevancies? I just think things like that, in an important matter like this, should come back to the council. If you're going to develop something, why not include the whole council?
The council is endorsing the policy. That's what this is. Anyway, your points noted, Councillor Cardew. Are there any other questions for Gazette? Okay, do we have a mover and seconder of the motion? Councillor Billy moving, seconder. Councillor Lang seconding. Councillor Billy, you wish to talk?
No, look, just my only comment would be that in all my time on council, I've never had to endorse a procedure or a guideline. We endorse policies. And that's my only comment.
Thanks. Councillor Lang, did you want? Councillors, final call.
Can I just understand this a little clearer than what Kev was asking? Just so, I mean, there's a point there, and he's asking, so, you as the mayor is the one that gauges how the CEO is travelling, is that correct?
Well, at an operational level, the CEO and I work closely on a daily basis.
Okay.
But in terms of the appraisal of the CEO, there's an annual process that we go through.
Yeah.
So there's documents that sit underneath the policy, which the performance assessment template is one that all councillors will be invited to complete at the time of the assessment.
So we have a little bit of a say anyway in that, so I don't see a reason to. Okay, appreciate that.
I might just add, it's probably something that would add anyway. So the Local Government Act sets out the duties of the councillors and it sets out the additional duties of the mayor, including with respect to the Chief Executive Officer. The Local Government Act also sets out, so there should have been a policy in place for a very, very long time now, that hasn't been. It also sets out what should happen for the Chief Executive. And what happens here now also needs to take into account what's in my contract. So this is complying, so this is the way to now comply with the legislation.
Okay, councillors, we've got a mover and a seconder for 11.3. Those in favour? Carried, that's 6. Yeah. Okay. Okay, councillors, that brings us to 11.4, statutory delegations, the Planning Act. Thanks, Abed, I'll pass over to you.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm pleased to also present this report to council. TRC has the power under section 257 of the Local Government Act to delegate powers to the CEO necessary for the efficient management of operations of TRC. The Planning Act of 2016 governs development assessments and compliance framework under Queensland's planning system. A recent review of TRC delegations under the Planning Act indicated that a number of updates were required as a result of legislative amendments, including the repeal of some sections, and this is to ensure that TRC's planning section have the ability to make appropriate decisions. These delegations have been benchmarked against the LGAQ's delegation status and a number of other amendments. I'm happy to take any questions.
Councillors, Councillor Barty.
I don't understand what they are. If you could just give a brief overview of the ones that have been added, and I know there's sort of that big chunk that's been removed at the end as well, page 126 to 128, just to, if you could, talk briefly.
Certainly, section 53, subsection 6, provides a new delegation of power to make a submission about a development application when council is not acting as a referral agency or as the applicant.
What does that mean?
So for the specifics, it means that council officers actually have the ability to make submissions in relation to an application where they're not actually the referral agency.
So is that like a state thing or something?
You have to talk about the specifics with the planning section. I'm not a planner.
Is there a planner over there? Can I call it a planner?
Thanks, Peter. Thank you.
Sorry, Peter.
I think Peter will be able
Oh,
to
he'll
ask
be-
you about
yeah.
it. Google over it.
Sorry about
Sit on one of those chairs. That'd be great, Peter. Thanks.
Okay. Through the chair, thank you, councillor. So the specific question there was, I understand, related to when council may look to make a submission in relation to an application that it is not the assessment manager for. So there could be an application that the state may be the assessment manager for. So an example may be a large-scale solar farm. So solar farms, the state is the assessment manager, or a wind farm.
Yeah.
So there are various land uses where council is not the assessment manager.
Okay.
So the state is the assessment manager, and council may wish to make a submission for or against.
For or against it, so
I
just go,
propose.
okay, yeah, cool, okay, thank you.
Just on that, does that through council, or we delegating the authority to the CA to do that off the CA's own back?
I have to check the
The
specifics.
specific delegation will be in accordance with council's resolution in October of 2024 regarding the delegation of the decision-making power, and that explains that large chunk at the end of the delegations, the schedule, which actually sets out whether it's council or council officers who have the relevant decision-making power.
Thanks.
It will be on a case-by-case basis, essentially, but it will be in accordance with the powers as set out in the schedule, as council previously resolved last year. Some of the others were, the amendment to section 79 is a deletion because the provision no longer exists in the legislation. Section 82 is a power to assess and decide a change application for other changes. Section 128 is the power to impose conditions necessary for trunk infrastructure to service particular premises.
That one, I was concerned about that one, so if I can have a little bit, like 128, 1 and 2.
Two.
Yes, I think 128, 1 and 2 were the,
So
just
that-
off the top of your head.
So it's related to trunk infrastructure, so
Yeah.
that may be around this conditioning that the infrastructure or a project may require and trigger certain trunk network upgrades that are identified in council's LG.
Yeah.
So that would be the power to say that those works are trunk works, and then they're offset against infrastructure charges. And infrastructure agreements are typically entered into to outline the obligations and entitlements between council and the developer providing that infrastructure.
Section 137.4 is a power in the specified circumstances to amend an infrastructure charges notice. Do you need clarification as to when that might be amended?
It's not about, it's.
So through the chair, an example may be that the development has a minor change to the floor area that will be considered generally in accordance with the approval. So it may be, let's say, 20 square metre reduction in floor area from the approved development. So then it would see a reduction in infrastructure charge levied.
Yep.
Section 324B and C were provisions that were transitional and savings provisions under other legislation, and they don't actually provide a delegable power, so they've been removed. And then, as I've said, Schedule 2 that deals with the limitations on the exercise of the delegable powers, and that was amended to reflect council's resolution of last year.
So the resolution last year sort of
Has
removed-
replaced the previous schedule. The previous delegations hadn't been updated as a result of council's resolution in October last year.
Yeah, councillor Vardy, is that all of them?
Yeah, that's all of them.
Yes. Councillors, any more questions for Yvette on this one, or Peter? Okay, can we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Spanos and Councillor Dillon. Would you like to talk to this one, councillor?
I think it was pretty clear.
And you asked the right questions?
What does it mean?
Okay, we've got a mover and a seconder, those in favour? Carried, that's 7.
Thank you, thanks. Sorry.
Yeah, we did it, yeah, thank you.
All right, that brings us to 12, placemaking, 12.1, C and JOs, material change of use, low impact industry, mechanical repair and fitting workshop, lot 1, MPH 30577, lot 3, MPH 30838, lot 34, MPH 24972, located at 6 to 8 Zinc Street and 3 Routhall Street, Mount Garnet, MCU 25/0013. I'll say with you, Peter, you want to talk us through that one?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item, councillors, relates to a material change of use for a low impact industry, and it's specifically for a mechanical repair and fitting workshop. Since the report has been tabled, there have been some minor administrative amendments proposed to the conditions that are contained in the report. It is proposed that conditions 11.1 and 11.2 on page 135 of the agenda be removed, as condition 11.3 that's already provided within the conditions already addresses landscaping and fencing to the Zinc Street frontage. The proposal covers 3 lots, which were conditioned to be amalgamated. They have a total area of just over 4,800 square metres. The site's in the low density residential zone, and the applicant is seeking to expand the existing infrastructure of the site by building an additional shed, constructing a new demountable office, and expanding also a lean-to into one of the existing structures. Although this land use is not typically supported within the low density residential zone, the planning scheme does support this form of development within the Mount Garnet area, where amenity impacts can be appropriately mitigated. The recommended conditions seek to address the residential interface along the Zinc Street frontage by requiring screening and fencing along the frontage, restricting vehicle access to the Routhall Street access point at the southern end of the site, limiting the hours of operation to end at 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, and not at all the operation on a Saturday or Sunday. On-site impacts associated with dust and vehicle movements are seeking to be addressed via dust suppression, which will be a compacted surface rather than concrete or asphalt, so it is still a unsealed surface, but it is to be compacted to reduce any dust impacts. And other design conditions relate to building materials and finishes, including the not unpainted surfaces. They are a painted surface that's provided. The application was subject to public notification and no submissions were received.
Thank you. Any questions for Peter on that one?
Peter, could you just speak briefly about the water supply and the firefighting provision?
Yes, through the chair. The recommended conditions seek to have an additional water service connection to the property, as it does have a residential property, a residential use on the same site. So there'll be a residential connection and a commercial connection provided to the property. Firefighting, is likely there will be a requirement for an on-site fire break tank rather than relying on the council supply for emergency services. That's typical for the nature of the land use of this size and scale, but they do have an on-site provision as well. So that deals with the water supply side rather than relying solely on the drawdown from the council supply during an emergency.
Yes, thank you.
Final call, councillors. Questions for Peter on this one? Okay, can we have a mover and seconder? Councillor Hayden's moving, and Councillor Vardy. Would you like to talk to this, Councillor Hayden?
No, I'm happy with it.
You're happy with this? Councillor Vardy?
No, thank you.
Okay. Final call, councillors, on this one, for or against? Okay, we've got a mover and seconder. Those in favour? Carried, that's 7. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to 12.2, L and J Ham, reconfiguring a lot, 2 lots into 2 lots. Lot 374 NR 1257, lot 384 NR 1257-339 Sims Road, Atherton, RAL 25/0023. Over to you, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. Councillor, this item relates to a boundary realignment on Sims Road involving 2 lots. The land is in the rural zone, and the realignment is primarily seeking to resolve an existing encroachment and will result in the existing dwelling and sheds being located in a larger rural holding. The change will reduce the smaller lot by in the order of 1 hectare, resulting in 11 hectare vacant lot, with the larger lot increasing to approximately 67 hectares. It's important to note that no new lots are proposed as a result of this reconfiguration. It is still retaining the existing number of lots, and the existing access and servicing arrangements remain unchanged as a result of this development. The application was publicly notified and no submissions were received. The proposal's been assessed against the relevant provisions of the planning scheme and it's recommended for approval.
Thank you. Questions? Any questions, councillors? Can we have a mover and seconder of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Cardew is moving. Councillor Spanos seconded. Councillor Cardew?
I'm all happy with it, thanks.
Councillors, for or against? Okay, those in favour? Carried. That's 7. Yeah. Okay, councillors, that brings us to infrastructure and environment. Department of Transport and Main Roads, road opening request, 13.1. I'll hand over to Mark. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, through the chair. As you all are aware, council has a sublease with PMR for several wards that make up the rail trail service, basically between Atherton and Walkman. And the Department of Transport and Main Roads has identified that one of those wards partially encroaches into the Kennedy Highway. And under our sublease conditions, that technically makes council responsible for that part of the Kennedy Highway, the infrastructure, but also the use and any liability associated with that use. TMR has approached council on the 14th of November this year with a request for us to consider relinquishing part of our sublease that encroaches across the Kennedy Highway to rectify that issue. It is in the council's interest that it does that, so that's why I've made the recommendation for council to dispose of an interest in land, which is not a delegated matter to the CEO. I'm happy to answer any question.
Councillor Barty?
Are there other bits like this around? It just seems
Through the chair. I do know that there are a couple of areas where the rail trail encroaches onto a local road, but because we're technically liable for local roads anyway, it's not necessarily a big issue. I'm not aware of any other encroachments on state-controlled roads.
Any more questions for Mark? Do we have a mover and seconder? Councillor Cardew is moving. Councillor Bill is seconding. Councillor Cardew?
No, thank you, it's all straightforward, thanks.
Anyone like to talk to this one? Those in favour? Carried, that's 7. Okay, 13.2, Yungaburra Walking Network Plan and Action Plans, WNP and AP. Oh, that's just the abbreviation. Yeah. So we've got Dave here. I'll let you talk to that one. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Mark. Through the chair, council has received funding a while ago to complete a walking network plan for Yungaburra in a similar way that we've completed plans for Atherton and Ananda. As part of that, there was a community consultation carried out, and we have developed a walking network plan for your consideration and adoption. Should that come, then we can then send that to TMR for submission as part of the funding requirements. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions on this one? Councillor Barty?
How do we get funding to do the actual pilots?
That can either come through council allocating capital funds to specific projects in Yungaburra or any location. Alternatively, should there be funding programs set up by the state or the federal government, we can apply to them as they come up. We did apply for, there was a federal one earlier this year, which is an Australian-wide footpath program. But we've not heard anything that I'm aware of about the success of our application for that one.
So these plans form part of that application process?
These plans will provide support to those applications when they come around. We can say, look, we've got this plan, and this is why we're choosing this path over a path somewhere else, is to help build the importance of these particular paths, in this case in Yungabo. Yeah.
Any more questions for David? Do we have a mover and seconder? Councillor Vardy's moving. Councillor Spanos. You wish to talk, Councillor Vardy?
Just to thank the people that played in the community consultation.
Anyone like to talk to this one? We've got a mover and seconder. Those in favour? Carried, that's 7. Um, 13.3, Capital Projects Monthly Report, October 2025. Thanks, mate.
Thank you, through the chair. As per usual, every month we report on the performance against the capital budget to council. This is the capital projects report for the month of October 2025, which outlines the project status and financial position across the whole program. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions, councillors?
It's just those two from charts.
Thanks, Councillor Vardy. We are aware that you have requested some information in relation to 2 projects. They're still with Charles, so we'll take them on notice and report them separately.
Councillors, any questions for Mark? Do we have a mover and seconder? Councillor Vardy moving. Councillor Lang seconding. Anyone wish to talk? Those in favour? Carried, that's 7. Okay, the next one is a late report. Has everyone got the late report? 13.4. 13.4, 2024/25 operating position and management measures to mitigate negative operating results. I'll go to Mark again.
Yes, thank you, through the chair. At the 24 July 2025 ordinary council meeting, Councillor Cardew requested formal discussion about the preliminary financial report for the 24-25 financial year. The general managers would provide an account on any overruns that have occurred in the 24-25 financial year in relation to the operational result, and also advise how the general managers would manage future overruns or prevent them, mitigate them. With the 24-25 financial statements now being finalised, with a net surplus position being realised of just over $60 million and a cash balance increase of $2 million, these statements are being presented to this council as part of the annual report. And following completion of that, we can now also provide a report requested by Councillor Cardew in July. In 2024, the budgeted operating position was a deficit of just shy of $1.5 million. The achieved operating position was a negative operating result, or a deficit of $3.54 million, which is a variance of the budget of $2.05 million. The main contributors to this variance were an adjustment required to employee-related on-cost provisions of just over $700,000, employee-related expenses for labour hire, overtime allowances and wages overspend of just over $800,000. An increase in depreciation expenses of almost $1.2 million, and contractor expenses that increased by just over $700,000 as well. It is noted that obviously we provide 44 different services to the community, and in those services there is a multitude of different activities and natural accounts that we allocate costs to, and across all those activities and accounts there will be pluses and minuses. Generally they balance each other out, but these are the major contributors to the deficit position, or the increased deficit position compared to the budget. So the executive leadership team is implementing several measures to assist in managing the operating result to achieve a zero deficit position for the 2025-26 year and also beyond. These measures include the following, and further detail is provided in a report, and I'm happy to answer questions about them. So basically they're related to improved service level financial reporting, management and accountability, more frequent regular review of provisions for employee-related expenses, ongoing improvements to asset management, increased focus and attention on procurement arrangements and activities, and continued focus on efficiency improvements. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Mark. Any questions? Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Cardew is moving. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Spenos. Councillor Cardew.
Thanks. Mark, thank you very much for that report. I've read it word for word, and Hilary, your input as well, if you have input, yeah.
And Erica.
And Erica, thank you. I read every single word of it, and yeah, very pleased with the report. Thank you very much. I know it was a big ask at the time, and yeah, I think it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the outcomes that you've said, and hopefully it'll pan out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to talk to this one? Councillor Spanos.
I'd like to see the zero deficit. That's what I would like to see.
It's a plan, not a promise.
I appreciate that, but yeah, that would be great.
Final call, councillors. Those in favour? Carried. That's 7. Okay, community and corporate services. 14.1, financial report, October 2025. I'll hand over to Erica. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So thank you for receiving the finance report. At the close of October, the operating revenue and expenses were both on target with a variance of less than 2%. With over 200 payment plans in place for rates, our rate balances are continuing to decrease, with a current outstanding balance of just under $4 million. Cash balances at the month end reached $63 million, and taking into consideration the next 4 months of expenditure, which is an activity that QTC recommended that we do, the expected cash balance at that point in time will be $46 million. A number of tenders and seal quotations were opened during the October period, supporting capital grant delivery, and local and endorsed procurement activities remain strong, being over 90% of our purchase orders and contracts for the month. This month, we've also identified a sole supplier for the provision of audiology services. It's accredited with workers' compensation, with the workers' compensation audiology. This is the Cairns Audiology Group, who operate from the Atherton office one day per week. This concludes my summary for the month, and I'm happy to take on any questions.
Councillors? Do we have a mover and seconder? Councillor Billings moving, and Councillor Hayden. Councillor Billings or Councillor Hayden?
I haven't got a lot to say, but just as of the end of that month, position's tracking pretty well from what I can see, so it's good to see.
Final call. Those in favour? Carried. 7. moved. Final audit report 2024-2025. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you. So on behalf of the Queensland Audit Office, I present their final management report and closing report for the 24-25 financial year. This marks the completion of their financial audit process. This report presents an unmodified audit opinion with no significant issues identified. There were some areas identified for improvements, being a need for policy for ex-parte payments. There were no issues found with any payment, however the QAO are suggesting to all councils that the policy is in place, particularly because this is use of council, as all of our spend is use of community funds. Another item was with contracts over 200,000 that needs to be disclosed on council's website. We did have them on their website, but they were outdated for that particular listing. I would like to note, though, that each month in the finance report that I've just presented previously does include all our contract values. It's on our website and through council reports. I just haven't updated to a certain point, but that has now been rectified. We also have an asset register, which is significant. It consists of over $900 million worth of assets, and each of those assets is broken up to separate components. Part of the audit identified that there were some incomplete records, particularly in our road space. So this year, with our comprehensive revaluation process and our asset condition review of this asset class, improvements will be made to that asset category. The fourth item identified was some leave balances were in excess of the 10 weeks that we have stated in our leave balance policy, that actions are now already underway to reduce those balances. Two matters that were identified in prior years' audits have been resolved, and there are 4 that have continued to be worked on at this point in time. Thank you, and happy to take any questions.
Questions, councillors?
I don't have a question, but well done. Thank you. You did a good job. Thank you.
No? Thanks, Councillor Lang. Do we have a mover and seconder for 14.2? Councillor Lang moving, and Councillor Spanos. Those in favour? Carried, that's 7. 14.3, the annual report, 2024-2025. Thanks, Don. I'll go over to you.
Thank you. I am happy to present to you the annual report for 2024-25. This encompasses all of the legislative requirements that we are required to report against, as well as a lot of material that we worked very hard to be comprehensive and transparent about, to give the community a broader overview of what we accomplished in 2024 and 25. Ready to take any questions?
Councillors, questions for Don on this one? No? Do we have a mover and seconder? Councillor Billy moving. Councillor Lang. Councillor Billy.
Nothing from me is there.
Councillors? Those in favour? Good job, John. Well done. Audit Risk and Improvement Committee, 13 October 2025. Sorry, Hillary. Thank you, Hillary. Over to you.
Thanks, through the chair. So this report just presents the minutes from the last Audit Risk and Improvement Committee for voting by council. Can you take any questions?
Questions for the General Manager? Do we have a mover and seconder? 14.4. Councillor Lang. Councillor Fillion. Councillor Lang or Billy?
Just a question. The new chair, Mr. Chopra, was that his first meeting?
Vivek Chopra, yes, that is
Yes.
correct.
He's looking forward to the role for the next period of time, I would imagine. Excellent.
Okay, councillors, those in favour, 14.4? Carried, that's 7. Okay, 14.5. Thank you, councillor. State Emergency Services, Australia Day Awards. Who's talking? Thanks, Jody. I'll let you just talk to this one briefly if you like.
Good afternoon, Council, and through the Chair. So this report is to Council to resolve to approve the incorporation of the State Emergency Services Awards with our Australia Day Awards ceremony.
So councillors, I'll just give a little bit of history on this one. I was approached last year by James Gegg from the SES, and he asked if it would be possible that the SES could present some of its awards, mainly to their volunteers, if he could partner with us or share some space with us on our Australia Day Awards, because normally they do their awards just in the SES shed. They invite them in for a morning tea and give the awards out in their shed. So I took some liberty and gave James an opportunity on a trial basis to do that. So we did it. It was done this January of this year, where we invited. We just did our Australia Day event, but the SES brought their group along. I think they came along at 9:30, and we were starting at 10. So they came at 9:30. James Gegg gave a small presentation, and then they gave awards to 7 or 8 people who do SES work. And then at 10 o'clock, then we started the Australia Day, Council's Australia Day Awards. That was roughly it. Jody?
The SES Awards were incorporated as part of the Australia Day Awards ceremony.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
And
to get
six
that wrong.
SES members, local SES members were awarded an award.
Yeah. So sorry, apologies for that. But yeah, so they had that first window, and then we did our regular ceremony after that. But look, what's before council today is an opportunity for council to formally adopt that we share that ceremony, we share that day with the SES. I personally thought it went particularly well in January this year. The SES people were elated that they sort of got wider recognition for the work that they put in, and it didn't really interrupt our proceedings at all. We just started a little bit earlier and let them have the first window, and then we did the rest of the show. But yeah, so any questions for myself or Jody on this one? Okay, Councillor Hayden.
So if we let the SES do this, how many other groups are going to be starting to join in?
Well, that's a good question, Councillor Hayden, but what groups were you
You've got the
thinking
Royal
of?
Fire Brigade who volunteer quite quickly when they're called by the government, and so I'm just thinking how many more people will be standing up getting these awards? Like an Australia Day Award now, nearly everyone was, except for me, in the TRC area will be getting awards soon. Except for me, I I just wondered, the invasion of the Australia Day Awards.
Yeah, well, it's a good question. I can't really answer that, but it'll be a matter for the council if there's future requests to broaden it out. This proposal is just for the SES. The SES is it's probably a little bit more organised than the rural fire services.
I wouldn't say that. Well, they can ring and wear it on their doorstep. Putting that in fires with no difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Look, I won't. Disagree, Councillor Hayden. But are there any other questions for Jody and I? All right. Do we have a mover and seconder of the motion? So Councillor Billings moving, Councillor Vardy seconding. Anyone wish to talk? Councillor Billings.
I think I said this similar last year. This is, it elevates the SES onto a community stage, provides the opportunity to celebrate on a community level. I'd like at some stage to see the Australian Honorary Awards to be included at some stage. So we are celebrating people that are doing great things in the community. That's what it's all about for me.
Thanks, Councillor Billings. Anyone else like to talk to this one, for or against? Councillor Targett.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'll talk against. I don't want to take anything away from the SES. I think they do a fantastic job. But I believe that the Australia Day Awards ceremony should be a standalone ceremony for Australian language. That's what it's there for. If we want to recognise other community services, then we should create another award ceremony. I don't believe it should be combined with the Australia Day Awards. The Australia Day Awards is there, it's very special, and yes, we trialled it last year. It may have worked okay, but again, echoing Councillor Hayden's comments, what's to stop other organisations in the future wanting to do the same thing? So for me, as much as I acknowledge the good work that SES does, I can't support them continually being involved in the Australia Day Awards.
Thanks, Councillor Targett. Final call, councillors, for or against? Okay, we've got a mover and seconder. Those in favour? Carried. So that's Councillor Hayden and Councillor Targett. Okay, councillors, that brings us to business without notice. We've actually got two items. We might do the LGAQ one first. Has everyone got a copy of that LGAQ voting request that needs to be done by the 17th of December? Has everyone got that copy? I might just hand over to the CEO. She can explain that a little bit more for us. Thanks, CEO.
Thank you very much, Chair. So LGAQ contacted us, in effect you as voting members. They've called a 17 December special general meeting and a postal vote, where we obviously need to bring it today because our next meeting will be the day after that. So they're looking for you to vote on a proposed reform that will automatically end the person's role as mayor or councillor in order to run for state parliament. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold. At either a general election or state by-election. So presently there's no requirement in relation to federal elections. So I think at state level, you are required to resign. So the board is convening a special general meeting to get your vote on, so a vote for would signal that Queensland member councils wish to retain their existing policy position and do not support having to resign to run for state parliament. Or if this council's vote is against, it signals that this council has changed their view and believe that mayors and councillors should have to resign in order to run for state parliament. So it's relevant to state parliament. So for councillors, you need to decide whether to vote that if a councillor runs for state or state parliament, they have to resign, or not, essentially. So a for signals you want to retain the existing policy, which means you do not have to resign. Against is that mayors and councillors should have to resign. Does that make sense?
Yep. Councillor Bill.
Yes, so through the chair, so my understanding of that, if we continue as on, mayor or councillor doesn't have to resign, there's no cost implication. But if we vote against it, the mayor will have to, let's say it's the mayor has to resign, then there would have to be a by-election, which would come at a cost.
Well, and it depends on, just say it occurred for whatever reason, within 6 months of the mayor being elected, there doesn't necessarily have to be a by-election. So the actual process to follow if the seat is vacated stays the same. It's just whether you, as a council, think that if one of you run, or generally if a councillor or mayor in Queensland runs, do you think they should have to resign or not? Generally, councillors will take a leave of absence, especially in that lead up where there's a lot of, community engagement to happen.
Councillor Barty.
I know this came out recently with the interim fellow running for council, but that's.
Well, he was state.
Oh, sorry,
so it was the opposite.
How often does this come up?
It will come up every election because you'll have councillors who are actually in this space first because they've got an intention to run for either state or Senate or something like that. So it will come up again around election time, as in state election time.
So it happens frequently then?
Well, it happens around election time. And in the past, I used to have to provide a lot of advice whether irrespective of which way it was going. So the existing policy means that you do not have to resign, but the changes in the bill will mean that you will have to resign in order to run for state parliament.
Councillor Hayes.
Oh, yeah. Also, and this would be what, sorry, I might just read this out because it probably makes more sense. So the motion is that the LGAQ maintains its members' current policy position held since 2012, that councillors should not automatically stop being a councillor in the event that they nominate and campaign for election to the Queensland Parliament, and then it's whether you are for or against that motion. Do you want me to?
Yeah, Councillor Hayes.
Oh, we've actually got it up on the screen too, sorry.
Yep.
So my question is, even though they run, they may not get in, so
exactly.
they still can hold their position as a councillor or a mayor. So I don't see what the problem is there. So.
Yeah, so for some might say, look, if you're going to run, you're demonstrating that you've got a higher interest, it's like applying for a job, but you don't necessarily get it or get in. So for you, you just have to consider whether you're for or against that LGAQ motion, and that is whether you are for maintaining the current policy position that you don't have to stop being a councillor in the event you want one.
So does everyone feel like they're ready to vote on that? Yeah. So I think we'll just go those voting for FOO. Okay, that's 6, and that leaves just 1. So is that our?
Yeah, so council will essentially then vote that LGAQ maintains its parliament, that you don't need to resign.
You still need a move.
It's actually clunky wording, so it's a bit So you still need to, now this is what you're looking at voting on now, this is your resolution.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
so can we have a mover and seconder? Councillor Spenos is moving, and Councillor Billney seconding. And yes, if you count that councillors for, yes, so carry 6-1, yes.
Can I just add, you've actually got 2 votes, but the resolution will be that it's 2 votes for, and then I fill this out, sign it off, send it back.
So do we,
There was a move and second, this vote, or thing?
it was, Councillor Billney? Councillor Spenos, was it?
Yeah.
Councillor Spenos and Councillor Billney. So those in favour? Okay, that's 6-1 again. So we just voted on that, that's 6-1.
Yep, and I've filled it out.
You've got it?
Right, so it will go straight back today.
Okay, so we're done on that one.
Yes.
Okay, councillors, the second business without notice, which I sent out early this morning, I'll just talk to this one as I introduce it. Councillors, as a result of the references to officers and behaviours that occurred during the October Ordinary Council meeting, it is extremely important that we undertake measures to mitigate against such behaviour reoccurring. The footage of the October meeting has been viewed by both the Department of Local Government, who I failed to mention earlier today, but yeah, Sue Campbell was sitting here a bit earlier, but she's now left. She was from the department. She did one of our training sessions earlier this year. And also by Council's own legal advisors. Given the seriousness of the events of the October meeting and upon advice received, I table and move the following motion: that Code of Conduct training be organised and delivered as soon as possible, and that attendance be mandatory for all councillors. Can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Billney. Okay, I'll leave my right of reply to the end. I think what I've said there in the introduction is fairly clear, but I'll go to councillors for comment. Anyone like to talk to this one? All right, we've got a mover and seconder. Those in favour? That's carried 5-2. So it was Councillor Hayden and Councillor Spanos. Thank you. That brings us to, sorry, business without notice. Councillors? Councillor Carthy?
Thank you. At the last meeting, the CEO advised we have spent $40,000 on lease or license arrangements for the APA, and that each time a lease or license has gone up, it costs $10,000 for each. I'd like to have a copy, I'd like to be able to get a breakdown of the expenditure for each of the 4 agreements for the APA, please.
Cost of expenditure for each of the 4 agreements for the APA. Do you mean the license, the lease, the trustee lease, what's the full?
Whatever agreements, please, cost $10,000
So maybe not put 4 in there, maybe just put agreements.
Well, I think you said 4, but then.
No, because we had a license, a draft lease, a draft trustee lease. So if we don't have a number, it can just be, unless we just put, in the past 2 years, how does that sound?
No, I just want.
There's 4.
I just want
There's
to-
support, fine,
I heard the 4,
Okay.
I heard the 4 as well, yeah.
That's fine.
So do we need a motion for that, or is that?
Up to you.
I just requested, do you need a motion?
I've got no issue, that's question on notice, yeah.
Yep, all right, very good. Final call, councillors. Okay, that wraps up business without notice. So now that brings us to our confidential. Thanks, Don. In accordance with section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the meeting will close at this part of the meeting to the public for the reasons and matters noted. Just making sure I read the right section. So 17.1, I just think this is out of order. So I should be next week. So I've read that. This is the reason here. So I'll just read those 2 reasons before. That covers this. This covers both. The first one comes from.
The first one is 2, and then the second one is only 1. So the first one is 2. So we do the title and then the reasons for each.
Okay, do the title first.
Yeah, and then move on to the second.
Okay. All right, sorry, councillors. 17.1 TRC 2022-06, Ravensdale Water Supply Upgrade Stage 2 WQIP contract negotiations. Reason for confidentiality. The report is confidential in accordance with section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, which permits the meeting to be closed to the public for business relating to the following. E. Legal advice obtained by the local government or legal proceedings involving the local government, including, for example, legal proceedings that may be taken by or against the local government. And G. Negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving the local government for which a public discussion would be likely to prejudice the interests of the local government. And for 17.2, FNQ regional collection and removal of ferrous metal, non-ferrous metal and used lead acid batteries. Reason for confidentiality. The report is confidential in accordance with section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, which permits the meeting to be closed to the public for business relating to G. Negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving the local government for which a public discussion would be likely to prejudice the interests of the local government. Thank you. Could I have a mover to go into confidential for those reasons, please? Councillor Stanoffs is moving, and Councillor Hayden. Those in favour? Carried, that's 7. Okay, councillors, we'll reconvene We'll go to item 17.1, TRC 2022-06, Ravensay Water Supply Upgrade Stage 2 WQIP Contract Negotiations. The officer's recommendation that council, in accordance with section 2571B of the Local Government Act 2009, delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer to do all things necessary to negotiate and execute a deed of settlement with HEH Civil Proprietary Limited regarding disputed claims in relation to contract TRC 2022-06, Ravensay Water Supply Upgrade Stage 2 WQIP. Can I have a mover and seconder of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Barty and Councillor Billman. Those in favour? Carried, that's 5. That's Councillor Hayden and Councillor Cardew. Okay. Item 17.2, FNQ Regional Collection and Removal of Ferrous Metal, Non-Ferrous Metal and Used LED Acid Batteries. And the officer's recommendation is that council award the tender FNQ 065 for regional collection and removal of ferrous metal, non-ferrous metal and used lead acid batteries to Sims Group Australia Holdings Proprietary Limited. And 2, delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer in accordance with the Local Government Act 2009 to negotiate, finalise and execute any and all matters associated with these arrangements, including variations to the contract within the constraints of the adopted budget. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Lang moving and Councillor Hayden. Those in favour? Carried. That's 7. Okay, councillors, there being no further business, our next meeting will be the 18th of December. Meeting closed.